Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Fresh Out, the podcast. I am the board game guru and game master extraordinaire and apparently convincing moron, Johananon.
I wasn't ready for that. You are a convincing moron. Yeah, that's so good. What an intro. It's me, Casualty CDG, the co-host of Fresh Out, the podcast. I'm a retired child crimes and human trafficking detective turned tabletop titan and improv comedian.
And I am Drew Munhausen, a professional media and movie mastermind. And joining us here once again, he was last with us here when we were talking about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And he's back again. It's the mayor of Nerdtropolis himself, Shantaj. How you doing, Sean?
The only reason he came back is because he forgot his keys and we locked him in the room.
Yeah, I'm still waiting to get out. I just want to come hang out with my buddies. That's why I'm here. But I'm excited to be back, guys.
We're going to be talking Thor, Love and Thunder today. So we figured no better opportunity than to have Sean back once again. You know, I consider myself to be pretty knowledgeable about the MCU. I would probably put Sean above myself at this point for sure. I feel like, oh, come on, Sean, give yourself more credit.
Closed captioning. Sean's shaking his head.
Closed captioning. No, I try to be up to date with the MCU and trying to see what they're grabbing from the comics and what they're trying to do, what they're trying to build brand new pretty much with the MCU. It's all brand new stuff they try to create based on what's in the comics.
Comics are so weird how they used to be their own thing, and then now how they push what's popular in the movies and then try to shape the books to be more in line with what's going on in the movies. And it's so interesting. Are you still collecting regularly, Sean?
No, I can't keep up anymore. It is tough, and it's just too much, and it's price gouging now. It's like you want to go get something, and they're just too overpriced now because they show up in a TV show, right? A Marvel show. So now that comic's 5 times the amount. So it's just like, why even bother?
Yeah, the pandemic kind of broke me of my regular collecting habits, and then what I was buying, I wasn't even reading, and I finally just had to cut the cord there for a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if I get back into it in a while, but to be honest, I don't really know what's going on in the actual comic book universe right now. And I used to be pretty in tune.
See, I love comics and collecting them and all that stuff. I've never been able to keep up, like, ever. I've just been really bad at it because I'm not good with dates and what day it is or month it is or year it is. I don't really know usually, so like I'm pretty lost. And then like lately, I bought a bunch recently, and I just haven't gotten around to reading them either. So I'm thinking about doing the Marvel subscription. Might do the online where you can just read everything for like one low price.
If you don't know what day, week, or month it is, you might be having a stroke. That's not
I just don't understand how that works.
I'm also guilty of that, Jahan. I'm more the guy who jumps into a Barnes and Nobles or a Books a Million and just picks up a couple graphic novels. I'll read them on my own time, and then I'll do it again 10 years later. I don't keep up with weekly books.
It used to be Marvel exclusive almost, and then when I was collecting in recent years, I started finding myself liking the more independent books more with the creative things that they were doing. With Marvel, it just got tough when, there was back in the day I could just collect Amazing Spider-Man and Uncanny X-Men and the Avengers, and like I was good to go. And then eventually one day I realized, like, in a month I was buying Amazing Spider-Man and Peter Parker Spider-Man and the Spectacular Spider-Man and Ultimate Spider-Man and Miles Morales Spider-Man, and there were all these
Savage
different
Spider-Man, Superior Spider-Man,
Spider-Man comic
Spider-Woman.
weekly, but with all different storylines, and I'm trying to keep up with all of them, and then eventually you just kind of throw your hands up and go, I can't. I'm too old for this now. I just can't do it anymore.
So I shouldn't mention the Edge of Spider-Verse series coming out, introducing a brand new Spider-Man as well, like the brand new character. To blow your mind.
I'll get introduced to that character when he's introduced in the MCU one day,
I think the last new comic I really read was the Last Ronin from TMNT. Was the one and then I think the last series.
Good.
Yeah, it is good, and I think the last set I went and bought that was old was the Long Halloween series. I picked all them up just because I was like, I love the artwork and I want to see what's all about. So I think since then I haven't really bought anything.
Yeah, when it comes
and then also the other thing too is series like Amazing Spider-Man and Batman used to be once a month, and now those are of course DC and Marvel's most popular series respectively, and they're out almost every other week now. So you're getting 2 issues a month. So if you get backed up even just a couple months, you're having to catch up on like so many comics rather than just one a month.
Yeah, it's a lot of reading.
It is.
It's supposed to be fun, but it becomes taxing.
It does. So we've gone down that rabbit hole a little bit, but we're all here to talk about Thor: Love and Thunder, which when I read this just now, it kind of took me back, but it's the 29th MCU film, which is just kind of insane.
That is crazy.
Yeah, and I remember, I think it was either Shang-Chi or something, I think was the 25th, and I remember thinking that was the lot, and then, cause Shang-Chi, then we had Eternals, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Thor, something like that. And, it's just crazy, and now we're almost at 30 of these movies, and, that's crazy, and I just counted, Thor: Love and Thunder is Chris Hemsworth's 9th appearance in an MCU movie as Thor. that includes like the end credits tease in Doctor Strange, the first one, because he's in that. So it includes those. But yeah, he's been in 9 MCU movies, which is kind of crazy. Almost a third of all of them.
It's
Been
pretty
around
good.
for a while.
I think he's gotten better at playing Thor along the way.
Yes, definitely.
I agree.
Well, obviously the series had kind of a major tone shift when it went from Thor: The Dark World to Ragnarok, and Taika Waititi was brought in, and we knew at that point Chris Hemsworth could do comedy pretty well too, or could kind of do some of the slapsticky stuff. So, of course, this is directed by Taika Waititi once again. Thor: Love and Thunder. I guess before we get into the movie, what we'll do is we can talk Thor for a minute. We can talk Thor: Love and Thunder non-spoilers, and then we'll get into spoiler stuff first. But let's just start with Thor in general. Like, are you guys pretty big fans of Thor? Are you fans of the previous Thor movies? Are you, where are you at on Thor?
I would
The
say
Marvel
that
character Thor.
I, growing up, did not like Thor. I thought Thor was kind of a stupid hero that I thought didn't fit in Marvel because he's a Norse god and not like a Marvel hero like everyone else. So I didn't care about Thor at all. But playing Thor in video games has always been fun because it's very strong, you fly, you have giant fields of lightning. So, I don't know, wasn't a Thor guy. And then Chris Hemsworth, I thought, the first appearance of Thor, not great. The first 2 Thor movies, not great. But I think he's come a long way, and I think I'm a fan of Chris Hemsworth's space Viking Thor, for sure. But Thor... altogether, it's not like I'd ever go get a Thor tattoo or buy a Thor t-shirt. It's not my guy.
I think without Chris Hemsworth being Thor, I don't think Thor would have been ever popular if they brought a different actor in. I don't think it would have worked. I think it would have flopped or not have gotten so many appearances. They would have killed him off and bring in, the female Thor and Bright earlier or something if it wasn't working out.
Yeah.
I remember seeing like an old video of Tom Hiddleston saying that he auditioned for Thor, and then he sees Chris Hemsworth, and he's like, oh God, I'm not going to get the role. That's Thor. And he's absolutely right. Chris Hemsworth is Thor. Just like Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark. I think you're absolutely right. I think you needed Chris Hemsworth as Thor.
There's a
His
lot.
little brother auditioned too, I think, right? I think his younger one did.
Probably.
Yeah, I believe you're right. And Chris got Thor, and Liam got Hunger Games. So everybody was happy, right?
And he got Miley for a little bit.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yeah, I collected comics for a while before the MCU was really a thing, back when I was in middle school and such, and I was never interested in Thor. I would collect some of the Avengers books, and Thor would show up here and there and, be part of it, but I was never that interested, kind of for the same reasons that Gary said, so I don't want to echo that too much. But I do remember when the MCU started picking up and, they made Iron Man, and then they were going to be making a Thor and a Captain America movie. I remember thinking, Captain America makes sense to me from a superhero standpoint. I'd read a lot more of him, and I could see that working. With Thor, I just remember thinking, how are they going to make that work? Because it's so odd, and like Gary said, like he's a Norse god. He's not the traditional Marvel hero. And then, the powers that be at Marvel Studios did their magic, and they really made him into a great Marvel Cinematic Universe character, a good on-screen character, and it works.
And I think without Thor in the Marvel Universe, Thor is like the link to magic. I mean, I know everyone's going to say Doctor Strange is, but Thor is that initial link to the fantastic, the unbelievable. He kind of drops that veil for you and makes it okay that there are aliens and space gods and flight and all that because of Thor. Anyone else, it didn't really fit the storyline. They were all pretty normal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first Thor movie was like the beginning of S.H.I.E.L.D. being like, hey, Nick Fury says it himself, like, in The Thing. He's like, there was a grudge match between 2 gods, and it leveled the city. Like, we need to up our game. And it started a whole thing. It started a whole movie plot, and then Loki came. I mean, Asgardians themselves have been a huge driving force behind the entire MCU, including, Loki's extra dimensional exploits that have yet to bear fruit, which I'm very excited about. But yeah, I was never, I actually never had a problem with Thor. I thought it was cool when he showed up. I'm like, oh, cool, Thor, look at that guy. But I never, like, sought him out, really. I remember buying a comic where he fought the Hulk and thought that was pretty cool once. But he was never my bag, my bag. But, yeah, I feel in the beginning... So I actually like Dark World for a lot of different reasons. I like a lot of parts of Dark World. The first movie I hated the first time I watched it. I rewatched it more recently. Liked it a lot more than I did initially because I hated it.
The first Thor movie. I'm a defender of the first Thor.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was a good introduction. Very smart and safe, though. It was safe.
Yeah, I hated it the first time I saw it, but I've seen it more recently. I liked it a lot more. I like Dark World. I thought Dark World was pretty cool. But yeah, I feel like they kind of stayed away from the space Viking and like tried to be like, hey, this is a Norse god. You know what I mean? But when in reality, he really was the whole time what he is now, which is this, guy that explores the cosmos, and is all, immortal and crazy. I feel like he's definitely, this final form is much better, for sure, than the initial.
I think this final form to me is a lot more like Gen X, a lot more 2020 Thor. Where back in the 90s, you just kind of needed him being a galactic guy flying around. That was totally fine. But now that's not cool. That's kind of cheesy to just have him be some guy, some Norse guy flying around helping people. So they really hammed him up and they brought him to our generation, and I think they made him totally fire. Maybe he was always supposed to be totally fire. And when you're reading those books in the 70s and 80s about Thor, you're like, whoa, look, he's awesome. But that just doesn't translate to our age today. I think they did a good job making him current in the movies.
True, they did make him current, but I also feel that they made him more 80s than ever in this last movie, with a lot of the just pure, like, acid trip, psychedelic poster nonsense going on all over the screen the whole time. Which I loved. I thought it was great. Visually, this movie was fantastic. But yeah.
I think where Chris Hemsworth excels is that he can be a good leading man. He's got the look and everything, but he's also a very good supporting player when it calls for it, like being part of the Avengers. He was a great team member, or fell into that role well, but then could also lead his own stories or kind of lead his own team, as he's done in both Ragnarok and he does in Love and Thunder. So he can kind of play those things, and he's made Thor feel like an important character. There are times when you're reading the comics when they would do the big event crossover comics where there's all this fighting, and right when things seem like they're really going bad for the Avengers, Thor shows up out of nowhere, and you go, oh shit, Thor's here. Things just got real because he's a god. And they've kind of been able to emulate that in the movies too, like in Infinity War, when there's the big battle that's going on in Wakanda, and then Thor shows up with Rocket and Groot in the middle of that fight, and it's like, oh, now things are about to get real because Thor's here. So they've been able to emulate that feeling of Thor pretty well. I think it's worth noting, with Thor: Love and Thunder, that it's strictly a Thor story. This is not a big, kind of like how we got into this with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, how we thought it was going to be the big branching thing that really showed us where the ship was going, or, who was steering the ship as far as the MCU went. We thought it was going to let us know what the next big thing was, and it really didn't. We talked about that a while back. And Thor: Love and Thunder is kind of the same. I didn't expect it to necessarily show us where the MCU is going. But no, this is a pretty contained Thor story. Would y'all agree?
Oh,
Similar
yeah.
to Doctor Strange, too. That was a very contained story, too, about Doctor Strange. So it seems like, even though it's in the cosmos and on those other dimensions, it seems like all these stories are so tight in a bottle, regardless of where their locations are.
I'm happy about that because I think Marvel spent so much time intertwining all their stories that sometimes it started to feel like a reach, or you were just kind of looking for the Easter egg in the next thing. You were just, like you said, you're watching Doctor Strange to see where the story goes. These past two movies, I think there's something good about them not doing that. The same way that Moon Knight was sort of self-contained. I like that these movies are self-contained. These heroes are off doing their own things. They do have their own lives and their own problems. And that's what makes it really cool whenever Thor shows up, like you said, and saves the day. Because you know he's busy, you know he's across the world, you've seen it in a movie, you know he's across the galaxy doing Thor things. So if he comes to help, it's going to make it that much more impressive in the future.
Yeah, I feel like he's been all up in everybody's stories for a while now, and it's nice that he gets his own time of development, and we like get to see. I kind of wanted that, because he's been busy with everybody else this whole time.
I would have loved to see a Guardians of the Galaxy movie that was just called Thor: Love and Thunder. If that had been Guardians of the Galaxy with Thor for 2 hours, I would have loved every second of that.
I kind of expected it.
That's what I thought
not
too.
what it was, but that would have been really cool.
Yeah, that was unfortunate, to be honest.
You could have given me 45 minutes, another hour, 2 hours of that. Absolutely.
Yeah,
it was under 2 hours runtime already, right? It was under 2 hours, so they could have honestly squeezed 15 more minutes and give us more Guardians or something else, I think. Or at least, I'm not going to get into it, but they could have given us a little bit more, I thought.
And without spoiling anything, I did think what the Guardians, the part that they were in, I thought was the appropriate tone, and I enjoyed it enough.
Oh, yeah, it was,
that was fantastic.
I was dying. It was so good.
Let's get into. We've kind of started alluding to it just in talks of Thor. It's hard not to, because this is obviously the most recent movie we've seen. But going into Thor: Love and Thunder without really spoiling it or getting into the plot too much, what are overall thoughts from you guys?
Overall thoughts, I liked it a lot. I thought it was a good time, man. It was an entertaining movie. I enjoyed a lot of the moments that it had. I mean, I have a couple small nitpicks at it, but they're nitpicks. They're not I don't have really very serious criticisms about this one. This one was solid, man. I enjoyed it.
I also liked this movie. I liked Love and Thunder. I didn't have any expectations. I didn't know if I was going to like it, and I assumed that I was not going to like it. I did not like Ragnarok, but I do like Taika Waititi. So I was sort of on the fence going into this one. I had no expectations. I thought I would be meh. And it was better than meh, in my opinion. And it is very apparent to me that it was directed by Taika Waititi and in part written by Taika Waititi. It really feels like a Taika time. And I'll explain a little bit more of that as we talk about it. But from what I've seen in Taika Waititi's works, and especially his comedies, Taika Waititi, he'll find a bit, and then he'll stick with the bit. And the bit doesn't go away. That's a permanent bit. It's not a 3 times joke and it goes away.
That's your
it's
life
not once
now.
A season. That's your life. Your life is that bit. That's right. Taika does a lot of that, and I think that there were some parts of Love and Thunder where that was grating.
Yes.
But other than that, I really liked it.
Yeah, it's definitely a Taika film, that's for sure. I do like his stuff, but I didn't like it the best. I loved Ragnarok. I wish it kept some of the tone of Ragnarok, where it was funny but yet serious and kind of more of a balance. But Taika went full throttle with this, and it was maybe too much for me. But yeah, that's why I wish they brought more of a dark world vibe to it based on the plot, which we'll get into later. I just wish there was a little bit more of a hybrid movie instead of full on Taika, which they give him full reign, which good for him. MCU and Marvel, all of them gonna give him full reign for that movie. Let him do his stuff, and it was pretty entertaining. That's for sure.
Yeah,
I love that Taika has the keys to Marvel and Disney and Star Wars now.
Star Wars.
Marvel and Star Wars is no matter where I turn, I get more Taika. And I liked that pirate show, Our Flag Means Death. So Taika's he's on fire for me.
Sean, I'm a little relieved to hear your thoughts on it, because I was definitely pretty mixed on this one, and for some of the same reasons you and Gary said. Gary, you actually worded it very elegantly about how Taika commits to a bit, and I thought that a lot of the bits in this movie were not funny and kept coming back and would make me roll my eyes pretty hard. But unlike you and like Sean, I really like Ragnarok, and I actually watched it. I rewatched it right before going to see the new Thor movie, which I don't know if that was a disservice to myself or not. But I still really like that movie, and I think that the humor in that movie really, really works most of the time. I don't know if that's the general consensus or not, but that was my opinion. And I remember seeing it for the first time, thinking like, "Oh, this is what Thor needs to be. This is great." And I think that in Love and Thunder, some of that's taken a little bit too far, where he became too slapsticky, too much of a joke character at times. But then there were times where the humor did work, and I thought that there were some actual cool action scenes, for the most part. But I thought, I thought the action scenes were kind of few and far between in this one. I thought that some of the plot stuff, to me, the movie, when it slowed down, it came to a screeching halt. I was like, oh man, this is slow, and that kind of surprised me because Ragnarok really moves by comparison, and they have similar runtimes. So, yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts, and a lot of those thoughts you can't really get into without really talking about the movie in spoilers. But we mentioned before, this is pretty self-contained. They did set up some threads that will lead, I think, to future Thor movies, not necessarily future Avengers-esque things, right? Like just more Thor. We get a lot more of the gods here in general, like gods, just plural, all types of gods, which I don't know if that's still going to contain itself to future Thor stories or not, if that makes sense.
I mean,
I don't know.
Whenever
they almost have
Go
it.
ahead.
They almost have it so that they can set up in a completely separate universe where it's like the GMCU, the Galactic Marvel, cinematic universe, where you're dealing with Thor, Guardians of the Galaxy, Captain Marvel, like blah blah, all that whole thing in like its own arena almost. And then you can come back to, because they have a lot of the street level stuff coming with like Daredevil, Jessica Jones. You got your Spider-Mans, you got all that stuff going back on Earth, and with like Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, all that stuff. You can almost like split them up into their own like worlds at this point.
I would love to see an updated roadmap from Marvel to see what exactly they have planned, because I'm really confused, to be honest, of the direction they're going with their TV and movies, and how some of the movies. So, to be honest, a lot of the movies were grand, like we saw this big adventures, a lot of characters, but now they're getting smaller. It seems like they're getting like TV show style, but for like the theaters, like they're more self-contained. So I kind of don't like that aspect of it. I want to see the movies huge and not so self-contained within these things. Keep those for the TV series, and then give us these big Avengers style movies if possible. Because I miss those, to be honest. I miss Avengers movies. Those are so much fun and epic.
And I know San Diego Comic-Con
be...
Oh, go ahead, Gary.
That's what I was trying to say earlier about the having like the cross features of different characters showing up in different movies and having these big events, is they can't all be that way, or else it's not so special. And so that's why I respect the Doctor Strange solo story and the Thor solo story, is because if they were all these big giant team ups, then I think that would take away from how special they are.
I was just going to say, San Diego Comic-Con's right around the corner. I think it's a little less than 2 weeks away, and Marvel has announced that they're returning to do their big MCU panel at Hall H, which I don't think that they've done in a couple years because of the pandemic. So I think the last time they did it might have been 2019, which is where a lot of these movies that we're seeing coming out now got announced, like Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness and Thor: Love and Thunder, and those, or we found out more about them. So I'm kind of not banking on it, but I'm hoping that we might find out a little bit more about where it's all going in the future, or there could be things that come out soon with Secret Invasion or whatever it may be, where there have been pieces that have been set that we just didn't realize that they were setting those pieces. I don't know.
Feige said it himself too, that the news is coming, kind of who the next big bad might be or where they're going.
He kind of gave the like, be patient, it's coming, right?
I'm not patient at all. That's the problem. I want it yesterday. Well, especially after Loki, I'm just like, man, they just tore things up in Loki. Like, how soon are we gonna see those effects? And we haven't seen it really yet. So
yeah, I've been hungry for Kang the Conqueror since like 2 minutes after Loki ended.
I
I
think
wanted
it's
King the
January.
Conqueror to like show up in my house and kill me.
He'll be
And the
coming in
fact that
January, right?
he hasn't shown up and killed anyone yet, Sean. And
Hey, well, Ant-Man.
I was gonna say, is January when Quantumania comes out?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he gonna kill Ant-Man or is he gonna kill the Wasp?
He's in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania.
He's gonna kill them both.
Kill everybody.
Not to do too much of an aside here, but I don't know if you guys saw that Paul Rudd, in the full Ant-Man costume, standing next to the Wasp, gave an explainer to people about why he didn't crawl inside Thanos' butt and explode him from the inside. He said all of it. Like, he was like, there's a lot of reasons why. First off, gross. And then
just watch The Boys and you'll know why.
Yeah.
Just watch The Boys, season 3, episode 1, and you know exactly why.
Yeah, I think that might be why he finally addressed it. But yeah, I thought that was something worth mentioning.
So we talked a lot in talking about Thor about Chris Hemsworth, and I think it's safe to say we're all kind of on board Chris Hemsworth as Thor, and I thought he was good in this one. As Gary said, some of his bits didn't work, but overall I still like him as Thor. But we had a few other characters in this one, namely Natalie Portman returned as Jane Foster / the Mighty Thor herself, and I like Natalie Portman a lot. I think she's a brilliant actress, and she didn't do much for me in this one, to be honest with you. And her especially, and I know she's not necessarily a comedic actress as her primary goal. But yeah, I mean, a lot of her humor and things really fell flat with me, unfortunately, in the film. I love Natalie Portman. I really do. Like, I would rank her amongst some of my favorite actresses, but just didn't do much for me here.
I mean, she's a fan favorite. Everyone loves her in general. I mean, you can't hate her. I mean, for a lot of reasons, obviously. So, but yeah, she didn't really. There's no chemistry between her and Chris Hemsworth. That's, I think, the problem since day one. Unfortunately, I think she's pretty good as Jane Foster, and she looks good as the new Thor, as you see. So other than that, like, it's just no chemistry. But she fits the mold for her character. It just didn't work out on film. At times, or like, just, I don't know, something was not working, and I can't figure out exactly why it didn't work. Because she's great. I mean, in general, as an actor, it just didn't work for the MCU.
I agree. I think that some of the Jane Foster plot points specifically, not Jane Foster as Thor, but Jane Foster herself, I thought were some of the stronger parts of her performance or stronger elements of her story. But we'll get into that more, I think, with spoilers. And then the other big one is we haven't even mentioned Christian Bale yet as Gore God Butcher. What'd y'all think of Christian Bale?
Oh boy. Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
This is Gore was one of my favorite Marvel villains of all time now. Maybe top 3 cinematic villains, top 5 for sure, but probably top 3. I thought Christian Bale was great. I like to see a villain who you can justify their actions. So, first of all, you could understand why Gore was doing what he was doing. It was really easy to get it. Everyone kind of felt for him in the beginning of the movie. You get why he's pissed off. And then he's corrupt. So the things that he's doing, all the horrible stuff and getting worse and worse, there's a reason for it. There's an explanation for it. He's not just being bad for sake of bad. He's terrifying. He gets more terrifying through the movie. He's just kind of screwing with people and tricking people. He's a great villain. I thought Christian Bale was amazing. And I think even by the end of the film, I think the characters, the way the character wrapped up was believable and honest. And I think it was just a really great arc for a villain. Just my favorite villain since Vulture. And I thought Vulture was really noteworthy as being believable and great.
Those are some good picks, man. So it's always hard to tell if it's like recency bias or what. But I was blown away by his performance. I thought it was. I mean, he became that character. He was scary. He was frightening. He was weird and like jittery and like excited about like doing bad things and like in such a, I don't know, man. There was like elements of like Fae in there, like Darklings and shit. He was the stuff of nightmares. It was cool, man. I was very excited. Like, he was exactly what a nightmare creature come to life would be like. With the shadow monster, all that stuff, man. It was crazy. And his acting was superb. I told Jenny, I was like, I think he learned, because I was like, that was like Heath Ledger, like, villain.
Man, I was
epicness.
thinking the same thing. I had that feeling at one point. I had this weird feeling where I was like, he is acting like Heath Ledger acted when Heath Ledger was across from him.
Yeah,
he's a villain that is stealing the spotlight from the hero.
Yeah, after I said it to Jenny, I was like, wait a second. I was like, that makes sense because he's the one that acted on the other side of that performance. So I think he picked something up from that. I thought his performance was outstanding. Blew me away. Definitely like top 5, probably top 3 villain. He was so good. I want more gore, more gore, more gore. But yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I feel the same. I don't want to go into spoilers just yet, but we need more of gore. I would like to see. There could be a spinoff somehow. I would love to see him return as that villain. More of that. That's all I can say before we go into some spoilers. I'll give it to Drew.
I'm just gonna echo everything y'all said. I thought Christian Bale was great in this. I thought he was very enjoyable to watch, and I thought, as y'all were saying, there was at least maybe like 3/4 of the way through the movie, there's a scene with gore, and I had a moment of like, oh yeah, he played Batman. That's kind of weird. Yeah,
it's so weird. Well, I thought for sure you were going to dissent because 3 of us agreed, and like we never all agree. It's never.
No, it's usually 50-50 in this group somehow.
No, again, in a movie that I was pretty mixed on, Christian Bale was a standout on the positive side.
Yeah, the highlight of the movie. I thought if it was someone else, that movie would have just kind of dipped a little bit the other way.
So
but I think
I agree. A bad villain can ruin a movie in a heartbeat, and especially in a Thor movie, because like we were saying earlier, Thor can be cheesy. It's just a few steps away from being too cheesy to be cool. And they kept Gore on the cool side of that line. He did not cross into cheesy territory. He was a very, very haunting villain.
And that's probably the problem I have with the movie is it's like this, right? The cheese, and then you got Gore with his awesomeness. It's just too far left and right. I wish that movie met in the middle in the tone. It was too extreme to the left and right when it came to cheesiness and seriousness. I kind of wanted to meet in the middle.
I do have something to say on that point when we get to spoilers, but yeah.
Yeah, Fair enough. And to your point, Sean, I don't think it's much spoiler to say that Gore's story or origin basically kind of opens the movie, and it's a pretty, harrowing story at the beginning, like what happens to him and what his origin is, that immediately got me on board of like, oh wow, like this is a very interesting character and who comes from a pretty dark place, or he's been through some stuff, and then you go from that to
jokes.
yeah, and I think that on that we can kind of start jumping into we'll do our big spoiler warning.
Spoiler
Moving
alert.
Forward for Thor: Love and
Welcome
Thunder.
to the spoiler room.
Thank God, because I'm like dying here. So yeah, we'll jump into like exactly what you were talking about just now, Drew, because like I wanted to say stuff. Those spoilers. Yeah. So he's going through the desert, with his daughter. Daughter kicks it. He's like laying next to her grave. So sad. And then he finds the oasis. He's called by the sword. And, it's a big deal to pick up a cursed, god-slaying sword. Doesn't matter who you are. That's not something you just do. But then the other guy picks him up by the throat. And completely, like, what are you going to do? Not pick it up now? You know what I mean? Like, he's going to kill you. And, like, the justification, like you guys were talking about earlier, was just there in every step. Like, everything was believable. It wasn't like, oh, he's gonna just pick up that evil sword after, being devout. Like, I don't know. It was all explained each way. I enjoyed that his hand was a little forced there.
Necro sword? Pretty cool name for a sword.
Uh-huh.
And, necromancy as something in general that I find to be pretty terrifying when you have a sword that's just imbued with it. That's that's scary. So that worked.
I think Necro Sword is a terrible name. It reminds me of Sword Art Online in season 2 when they have the death gun and it kills people. It's like, oh yeah, the death gun kills people. What a good name. You mean the Necro Sword kills people? You don't say.
That's fair. I don't mind it.
Well, I think in the original Japanese they actually use a German name for the death gun. It sounds less stupid. I think they call it like Sturban or something, which sounds cooler. But in the American version, they absolutely say death gun a lot in that show.
Yeah, and the main bad guy's name is Death
His
Gun.
name's Death Gun.
So really,
but yeah, Necro. Is it Necro Sword or Necro Blade?
No, it's Necro Sword.
Necro Blade's better.
You think so?
Yeah.
So I think then it goes right into, you know, Thor's adventures with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and some of that stuff was pretty fun. I thought the big battle scene with the creatures that looked like they were straight out of like the Labyrinth or some sort of Jim Henson.
I loved them so much.
I liked the design of them too.
And they were throwing up devil horns like they were like rock and roll monsters.
It was so metal, that whole scene. It was just
so
supposed to be all metal.
And then I died laughing.
They had these awesome, like, 2-stack motorcycles with guns all over them. I wanted miniatures of those guys. I wanted to paint minis right then and there.
They were so
It was like
cool.
Mad Max. It was Mad Max in space. That's really what it was.
It was,
and it's great. Thor's under the tree. You know, he's chilling, meditating, acting like he's over this whole thing. Comes down, rips off the jacket, sleeveless, cut-off denim shirt. What a great fight scene. He does the splits and kicks motorcycles. He blows up a whole building.
Yeah, he did the straight up Van Damme, and I was dying. I was laughing so hard.
After the Van Damme, then he did the roundhouse finish. So he did the cherry on top.
Those were the jokes that worked. That type of humor in that scene was what I was expecting throughout. Like, right when, going back a little bit, Christian Bale picks up the sword and kills the god, you know, Pern's saying all gods are jokes. The whole movie made all gods jokes, to be honest, and we'll get to that later. But that's like the first time you realize these gods are nothing and they're laughable and stuff like that. And it carries on throughout. But that whole scene with the Guardians is so metal and awesome. I was hoping it kept that metal vibe, but it became too slapstick and stuff like that later on. But I wanted to see more Guardians for sure. And more, going back to Christian Bale, we didn't see him enough doing his butchering, to be honest. There was not a lot of butchering shown from how many gods he killed or what. I wanted to see more of his journey into getting to Thor, and we saw none of that.
You were saying that there could be a spin-off. That's the first thing that popped in my head. Is like, there are like 20 more gods that he killed that we didn't get to see. That could be fun to watch.
Exactly.
Yeah, new Disney Plus series called Gore the God Butcher Butchers Gods, and that's the show.
I'll watch every episode.
I mean, that's what I wanted to see in this movie. They left that out.
I think they should make Gore Kills Christmas. It would be fun.
I also could have seen a whole movie devoted to Thor and the Guardians, just going doing Ravager missions and, you know, hanging out as a team.
That would have been so fun. Oh boy, that would have been a blast.
It was so funny, like just the small amount we got. Like, he was...
Yeah, we didn't get a lot of Drax, we didn't get a lot of Groot, but we got some good Star-Lord Thor back and forth. They had some good stuff, but yeah, more.
But there's a whole, like, from where this movie starts, there's a lot of Guardians and Thor missing, like, story-wise. Something must have happened from the end of the last movie where they run off together and now. So, like, I'm curious of what happened.
Enough to have happened for him to have overstayed his welcome, apparently.
That's what I'm saying.
They were like, get out of here, you weirdo.
There's a big time jump, it seems like.
I really liked when Star-Lord and Thor are like drinking at a table and Thor just starts sobbing and Star-Lord's like, what do I do? That was one of my favorite moments.
You know, it's a good point. It's one of the things that I think happened more often in the older days of the MCU compared to now. But, like, because, you know, the MCU got to a point where they obviously had a pretty clear plan of what they were doing, especially building up to Endgame. But at the end of Endgame, they kind of left some things, I think, open or what they could do. And so it makes me wonder if they knew exactly what they were going to do when Thor left with the Guardians at the end of Endgame, if they knew what exactly the plan there was, because to y'all's point, it almost seems like a quick retcon in this movie to be like, okay, so he had some adventures with them and then goes on his own story. Like, what were what were they? Why can't? Oh gosh, of course now I can't think of the directors of Endgame.
The Russo brothers.
Thank you, the Russo brothers. Like, what were their intentions in setting that up? But granted, I'm sure that they work with Kevin Feige and things like that to.
We'll probably work with James Gunn too. I swear, James Gunn had an idea when he left to go do Suicide Squad. A lot of things were scrapped, I think, and remolded with that departure. But you bring up the Russo brothers. I miss their movies in the MCU, and that's the type of tone I wished carried over to some of these, other MC movies for the other directors, that they took a little bit of the Russo brothers tone and continued it with some of these stories.
Yeah, and I guess this is kind of a good opportunity from that to talk about some big picture stuff, because we touched on like Taika's humor early on, and to me in this one it just everything's taken to a 10, and that's what really was turning me off.
Like the
some of the bits
goats
that we referred to, the screaming goats, I thought were unbearable. I thought that the bit of Stormbreaker being jealous of Mjolnir and Thor speaking to the hammer, I thought that was really dumb.
That did not work.
Yeah.
So I actually, with the goats, like, I thought it was really funny at first, and it got on my nerves really fast.
They should have killed them.
And then much later, they did something that made me laugh again. But the hammer and Stormbringer being jealous made me laugh every time. That one worked.
Man, that Mjolnir Stormbringer did not work. I thought that might have been one of the worst jokes in the movie. I thought that was really stupid.
When he's talking to Hammer and Stormbringer just comes into frame, dude, I was
that is
dying.
Hilarious when he comes in the frame. That's clever.
I was dying.
But other than that, it was hard to bear for sure.
That to me that's a 100% a Taika thing. Never have those hammers floated around looking at people before, or had facing rules for when they listened to you and overheard you talking about other things. That's a Taika joke that he threw in, and it stayed throughout the whole movie. He kept bringing that bit back, just beating that fucking horse to death. Sorry,
but not even as a joke though. But talking to the hammer and telling it to do something, and it does. Where it says "take care of Jane." I didn't know like you could what happened there, right? It was some type of what do you call it?
He imbued some kind of protective spell into it.
Yeah, I didn't know that you could do that and stuff like that. I wish we got more of Jane becoming the Mighty Thor, because it just jumped into it. I'm like, I kind of wanted to see the transformation.
That was another thing that kind of seemed like something was left on the cutting room floor, because even when it's when Gore is attacking New Asgard, and it's when Thor first meets Jane Foster as Thor meets, that Valkyrie makes a comment of like, "Oh, you're gonna like this one" or something. Like it made it clear that Valkyrie already knew that Jane Foster was wielding Mjolnir and was the new Thor, and almost like they had met previously, and it played off fine, but it definitely kind of raised an eyebrow for me of like, did I miss something? Like this, or something must have been cut that maybe shouldn't have been. I don't know, but yeah, and then also with Taika, worth noting that he plays Korg, and I liked Korg in Ragnarok, and I'm mixed on him in this one too. Like there are some Korg bits of humor that I do think are funny.
Way too much Korg.
But
I think he became cocky. I think Taika wanted more attention. I swear I saw that inside of him as a director. Like he wanted to be the star of the movie that he's making, and gave Korg way too much. And I think that's a little bit about so much power he's being given, doing Star Wars soon. I think it's getting to his head, and that's why he went overboard with some of these jokes, making it very Taika per se. He wanted to put his giant stamp as everywhere he could.
Yes, you said it perfectly, and you said it nicely, and that's what the problem that I was having, because honestly, I like Taika Waititi in general. Like I do think that there's talent there, and I do like that he brings a certain type of humor. But when he, maybe when given too much length of leash there, it can go a little too far, because having all his humor and then having himself as a character that's really a main character in this movie almost comes across as like being up his own ass a little bit too much, which like I know is like really mean to say because I do like Taika for the most part, but sometimes when he's just going overboard, the movie Free Guy is an example of this to me. Like his character is kind of the villain, you know, tech guru in that movie, and I thought he was unbearable in that movie.
I think there's a little bit of him inside that, to be honest. I think there's a little bit of Taika in that character in Free Guy.
And maybe it is, but yeah, it's a little much. And like you said, just trying to put himself in the center of everything when it's like, okay, maybe you need to reel it back here a little bit.
He's like, I'm best friends with Chris Hemsworth. I got Natalie Portman in this. I'm going to show I'm best friends with them by putting myself in the movie with them, you know, and stuff like that. Kind of.
Right. Okay.
Taika Waititi is also co-stars in Our Flag Means Death. He's like the second main character. So
no, but he's good in that, though. I like that show a lot.
He's also in What We Do in the Shadows, the original movie, the first one. So Taika does like to put himself in his work. And I think you're right. Somebody told him that.
You're touching on something though that's an issue here, because yes, What We Do in the Shadows was a Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement thing. You know, that was like a partnership that they came up with, and Taika directed that movie. The thing with like Our Flag Means Death is a lot of people are like, oh, that Taika Waititi show, but he didn't create that show. He didn't write that show. Like he's not creatively involved in that show. He just plays a character in it. But a lot of people like to give Taika the credit for it when really like that's a very funny show that's well received that Taika's not the creative driving force behind. So it's kind of worth noting there just as something to differentiate the projects.
That is absolutely what I was saying is that he likes to put himself in his own work. There's a history of kind of putting himself into his own stuff, and someone told him Korg was funny, and so he wrote himself way too many Korg lines.
Mm-hmm. There was a lot of Korg. I like some of the Korg for sure. I like quite a bit of the Korg, but I'll agree that there's too much Korg.
Like I actually did think one of the bits that did work for me. It was kind of stupid, but it you know when you do think for a minute that Korg died, but then it's just his face, and it turns out that all he needed was his face to survive. Like, okay, that I can handle that kind of humor. Like that made me laugh.
And then back in the head, it looked like he had a mustache because it was her hair. It was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was pretty funny. I liked Valkyrie a lot in this. Valkyrie was great the whole movie through.
I like Valkyrie too, and in a way, I'm like, give her more to do, or give her more of her own thing, because she's along for the journey in this one, but doesn't necessarily do much to stand out. But I like her. I like her a lot.
What's shooting back towards the beginning? I'm not sure if did you guys mention Natalie Portman's or Jane Foster's cancer yet?
Oh no, we haven't.
No,
we alluded to it. I alluded to it when we were talking non-spoilers. You know, the cancer battle to me, I thought was. I remember when it came up in the movie when she was getting, you know, chemo, and I was like, I kind of nodded. I said, okay, this is the route that they're going, because I knew about that comic book storyline, so I was wondering if they were going to do that in the movie. And there were some stuff with her battle with mortality that I thought was pretty interesting in the movie, and the choice to keep being Thor even though it was keeping her body from being able to heal itself. Like I liked that stuff. I thought that was pretty well done.
Yeah, no, so that part was good. So it comes down to a lot of what we were talking about earlier with, like, we want more God Butcher. I want to see more of her, you know, maybe not necessarily the cancer, like, directly, but becoming Lady Thor kind of felt like they just cut, like, a bunch of stuff. I agree with that.
I loved it.
I thought that they just kind of did that, and then, yeah. As for this now I could talk about the balancing thing that we were talking about earlier too. I feel like a lot of the humor, cancer is hard, man. That's a hard one to do in a family movie. I feel like because of how dark that is and how dark God the Gore Butcher is conceptually, like I felt like the humor was meant.
You said God the Gore Butcher.
Gore the God Butcher.
He's a variant.
I am dyslexic.
Convincing.
But yeah, Gore the God Butcher. They're just both such dark things on their own. I feel like maybe I felt like a lot of the humor was like the sugar to make the medicine go down with these like hard to digest concepts, like this, because a lot of modern audiences, they don't want to watch people. They don't want to watch someone kill gods, especially like I don't know. People get butthurt about that kind of thing in America. I don't know why.
It's Norse mythology though, and Greek mythology.
It is, but like I feel like it's still like I don't know. I did hear him mention like, "Hey, there's the god of carpentry." I didn't see who he pointed to. I assumed it was.
I laughed my ass off. That was Jesus, and you know it.
I assume it was Jesus, and I'm just like you know what I mean? Like I feel like there's some stuff that's a little touchy in this movie especially for an American audience. It doesn't bother me at all. But
it was like two different movies though, if you think about it. What you get with the cancer with Jane and then the God Butcher. And then you have all the other stuff that's so lighthearted and
I felt
fun.
like it went well together, personally. I liked the
I
mix.
do too. And I thought the pacing was really good. I heard you guys earlier say that you thought some of the slow parts came to a grinding halt. And this is why I thought it was so great that they didn't focus on Jane becoming Thor. You know what happened. She grabbed the hammer and now she's Thor. You don't need to have scenes explaining that and then her meeting Valkyrie and Valkyrie saying maybe Thor will be here soon, because it would be 10 minutes of boring dialogue.
Well, why did the hammer wake up all of a sudden when it was in crumbles when it could have helped Thor many times before too? It seems like a lot of
then they showed that little flashback. They're like, oh look, he touched it one time and made it magic for her. Like, they really flashed this stuff together, and they didn't slow down to hold our hand to explain these really minute things. I thought the pacing was great. And I thought that, especially I've been watching a bunch of action movies recently, and one of the hardest things to do is have your third act really feel like a third act. Sometimes you fight the boss in the second act, and then you fight him again in the third act, but the second fight was cooler. Or nothing has changed in between the second and third fight that makes sense that you won now. And I thought that this movie, Thor, Love and Thunder, did a lot of really good things as far as the pacing goes, and to continue to push the story, to continue to change what the characters had access to, and continued to explain why they could now fight the threat in a different way.
See, those are all really good points. Those are all
I really felt that. And like I told you guys, I watched Blade recently, Blade 1, and it doesn't make any sense at the end when he fights Frost, now that Frost is the vampire god, and then he beats Frost one-on-one, like face to face.
He had access to a brand new anticoagulant serum.
Yeah, it was really dumb. But in this one, whenever Thor goes to fight Frost at the end, it makes sense because he actually has the weapons to fight Frost. Yeah. And Frost is Gore, though.
So I will agree. So I also thought there was a bit of a pacing problem. I never felt like it came to a grinding halt at all. I just wanted more I think, Natalie Portman's story, and I wanted more Gore the God Butcher. I think those were my issues, and maybe more Asgard. They could have cut Korg stuff out for that kind of shit. But other than that, I thought the pacing was great. I really want to talk. So Gore showed up to New Asgard, right? He sticks his sword in the ground, and he kidnapped their children. Like, no one does that. You know what I mean? That was crazy. No one goes after the children in any of these things ever. And he went right for them, and then he put them in the cage of nightmares. And it was the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. I was like, oh my, like, I was freaking out. I thought it was fantastic. I was like, that is next level terrifying. Straight up a Darkling from, like, mythology. That's what he was.
Add icing to the cake, he didn't just show up and take the children. He summoned a shadow army of monsters to fight all the heroes in the street at the same time.
Yeah.
He fought all the heroes and stole the children. He didn't just sneak in through the shadows.
But I don't think that was the plan, though. I think he knew he was going to get beat right there.
Potentially.
And later on, he was like, wait, never mind. Got back up. I'm going to get my ass kicked right now. I'm going to figure it out, play the long game. Yeah.
You might be right.
He called an audible.
That's what happened. He said, there's two Thors here and everything else. Not happening.
Retreat!
Take the kids. Yeah, no, but that definitely was a dark thing to do.
There was that whole scene where they were on the moon or wherever it was, where the color, where it became black and white, that I thought visually
Kansas.
was really cool.
So
They filmed that in Kansas.
one of the better scenes to me visually.
it was
Whenever you film
spectacular.
in Kansas, it's always in black and white.
I see what you're doing here.
Until you leave and come back.
Right. Well, no, when you come back, it's black and white, too.
And you were there.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, you just say that there's no place like home, and then you go back to it being black and white.
That's right, and then you use the time stone to rewind yourself back to before you went to us.
The fight on Nightmare Moon 1 was awesome. I agree. I really enjoyed all the weapons were the only things that had color at all. I liked watching them like fly around this what do you call it, King Kai style planet. You know what I mean? Because it's real small. And then I really liked the moment when everyone broke free and like everything exploded. Everything just got super cool. It was just a really cool fight.
I did not like a lot of his fights because it was just like entangle, 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 entangle. And then he would just tie you up and you couldn't do anything. And that was it. The sword fights were really cool. But other than the sword fights, he just tied people up. And that became
other times
a bit much.
He shadow walked presumably through the nightmares of children and then showed up behind you and tried to kill you with the god-slaying sword, the Necro.
Yeah, that was really cool whenever he wasn't just casting entangle.
It's fair.
Gary, I had an interesting thought though with Thor, because in Ragnarok, when he kind of gains his lightning powers, his true god of thunder-esque abilities, he kind of starts it off with a giant leap in the air with the hammer and lightning everywhere. And I feel like every action scene in this film resorted to him either starting it that way or ending it that way. Like that became Thor's go-to move.
It
in some
looks
of these action
so
scenes.
good though. It looks so good.
But like, there are some cool things in Ragnarok. Like he does a part where he jumps and corkscrews through people with lightning shooting off everywhere, and does like a lot of cool stuff like that. And here, I just felt like everything was just, I'm gonna jump and slam my hammer down, and then I'm gonna do it again and do it again.
In this movie, Thor was like me in Super Smash playing Pikachu and just doing the lightning bolt every single time. You come close to me, that's all you're gonna get is the Pikachu lightning bolt, because I know it works every time and it's an easy move.
It worked the best in the opening scene that we talked about, where he's with the Guardians fighting all of those creatures, and he does it, and the lightning shoots off between all their speeder bikes and destroys all of them. Like that totally worked for me. That's great. And then every time he did it after, I was totally just aware of it. Just is this all he's gonna do every time, is jump in the air? Which, yeah, Sean, to your point, if I was playing the Thor video game, playing the Avengers video game, that's pretty much what I do as Thor, but still.
I really enjoyed the shotgun Mjolnir thing. That was pretty cool.
I liked that too. That kind of is like a buckshot.
The shattered Mjolnir.
I thought that was really cool.
I thought it was cool what she did with the Necro Sword with that, when she like ate it with her hammer and then like thunder smashed it. That was sick. That was so cool. So the thing that you guys are talking about, I feel I've been watching a lot of stuff lately, and I've been like watching it in the fight choreography. I feel like directors just aren't listening to their fight directors enough. Like they're like, this looks cool, I want to get the visual shot, but then they do a bunch of nonsense. Like Star Wars is so bad about this. If you actually watch what they're doing with their lightsabers, it's so dumb. Like you need to listen to your fight choreographers, because like it's so bad.
So glad you said something. Do you remember when Thor had the Thunderbolt and he was blocking Gore?
Yeah.
He was blocking the blade with his wrists.
With his
wrist guards, wrists, not with the blades. So he still had every movement to take the blade, disengage, attack, or stab. Instead, it was just, like you said, the director was like, boy, that looks cool. Let's just do what looks cool and not listen to the fight guy. And so instead, he's using his wrists to pluck a sword and not using his own weapons.
If you have swords on screen, you should have a sword fight director off camera that you can look at anytime something happens, and you can be like, is that checkmate? And he'll be like, yes or no. It's like that makes, you know what I mean?
You hear that, Hollywood? We know a guy too, Layden. Call Layden.
Yeah, call
he
Layden,
will help you out,
and he'll help you out.
It will make your movie better when it comes to fight scenes.
Absolutely.
You know, one thing we have not touched base on is Zeus. We never brought up Zeus.
What I was about to get into also.
I felt like
where I thought the movie slowed way down.
Not me.
I think I agree with you. I think it did slow the movie down, but I also liked it.
I
it
loved
could have been
Zeus?
sped up.
Fat Zeus.
It felt like this whole thing was
First
like
off,
a 25-minute scene, and it could have been like a 5-minute scene or an 8-minute scene.
Which, I mean, I get it. If you've got Russell Crowe in your movie playing Zeus, like, you want to give Russell Crowe time to talk in a funny accent and be Zeus. Sure.
What type of accent was that, though? Like, I couldn't
Italian.
figure it out.
drunk.
Yeah.
It was a accentuated Italian.
Yeah, it was some weird Italian. Yeah, it was definitely Italian.
I can't think straight right now. I'm still laughing. Just
Guess that
listening in my
makes
head.
sense because he's a Roman god. So I mean,
yeah.
It didn't
I
sound like
guess I
anything
could
I've
see it.
heard before.
yeah,
Well, isn't
could
Zeus,
hardly understand half the things he was saying.
Zeus is Greek though.
Yeah, that's what.
Jupiter is
Yeah.
the Roman.
Oh, you're
version.
right. You're right. You're right.
That's what I'm
He's
saying.
Greek.
I couldn't figure out what exactly that accent came from, and I don't know what Greek people technically sound like, but
Oh, a couple of Greek folks.
Oh yeah, we do know some Greek people.
Yeah.
They sound fine. They don't sound like that.
You know what?
They do not sound like that at all.
I can't believe
Hey,
there's no
I'm
Persian
a
gods.
Greek.
There's no Persian gods in this place, which actually pissed me off. No, I was playing and I didn't.
We should go back and look. I bet you there is, but yeah, you might be right. There was a lot of representation for the religions there. Like we
No,
talked
there was.
about,
That was really
Jesus
cool.
was apparently represented. I really enjoyed the God of Dumplings bow. I laughed pretty good at that.
I did like that. That was a very Taika thing to do, I thought too, but it worked.
When
And with this whole part, the idea of it, this meeting of all the gods in this big place, I like that as a concept. Like, that is cool. I just, from a story perspective, I was like,
No, it was a meeting that leads into an orgy, though. That's what
Yes.
that was all about. That was the joke of it too. That's
Yeah.
what that was.
and then you go back to the fact that Jesus was there, and it's twice as funny. But yeah, there's a lot of really funny stuff in that. See, I didn't know Russell Crowe was Zeus. I didn't know. Like, I don't know if you guys knew ahead of time. When they showed his face, I immediately lost my shit. I was so happy. It was so
I did
funny.
know. I did know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did know. Yeah, same here.
I also did not know and lost my shit. It was great.
Jenny
I was not expecting it.
Jenny said it would have been funny if he said, "Are you not entertained?" Like, she thought he was really gonna do it. I loved every minute of that. And then when
I
everyone
guess,
faints when they see Thor's penis was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's too bad that was in the trailer because that was a good gag, but we all knew it was coming.
No.
Mhm. Agreed.
That would have been a good gag to just hit you in the movie. I did think it was weird. What's the rating of this movie, guys? Was it PG-13?
Believe so.
Must be.
So I think it's weird they talk about orgies 2 or 3 times. I think it's weird that they say the word shitty like 7 or 8 times. I didn't really think, and then the movie starts off showing a dead child on screen. I didn't think that this was the most PG-13. I thought there was a real argument to be made here that it was on the line. I think Taika pushed it as hard as he could, and I think that the orgy stuff was like a forced laugh. I think that he kept trying to force that laugh too. I didn't think it was that funny.
I thought it was pretty
I
funny.
dug it.
Yeah, it is a PG-13.
And I thought that King Valkyrie was super lackluster. What a letdown.
No,
I
and I agree. Like, that's the thing is I like Tessa Thompson.
I
like
love her
Tessa
as
Thompson
Valkyrie.
as Valkyrie, and I want more Valkyrie. But I agree. I just feel like she was given nothing to do. Like, there could have been some really cool.
Do you think it's
things there,
because her and
just-
Taika were kind of dating? Maybe something happened and he like wrote her role down a little bit less.
Is that what happened?
were they?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing.
I mean, they were always very something here and there.
Friendly.
Yeah.
I thought.
Look at that.
Yeah. Well, so
Juicy.
Little MCU gossip right there.
Mhm.
first off with Tessa, it's not the most important thing at all, but like when she's dressed as Valkyrie, gorgeous, like just like
Yeah.
out of the park, insanely beautiful. And then she's just such a great actor on top of that. I love the accent. I love how she's very Viking. Like, she reads Viking. Yes. She has the attitude of a space Viking. She's hardcore, man. I love it. And yeah, I agree. I want more. I want more so bad. Please.
Yeah, she was lackluster. They didn't write her very well. It felt like they were like, we should have another character on this team. Who do we have from Thor's cast? It didn't feel like somebody sat down and said, let's write Valkyrie.
Yeah.
It felt like they just added a Thor character into the movie.
They said, let's write Korg. Right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Let's write Korg, and Valkyrie can be the backup.
Him. Yes.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's what happened. Is Korg got more time than Valkyrie. It made Valkyrie feel almost like a side character who shouldn't have been there.
I told you, it's a Taika thing, man.
So the Korg thing.
When she got her hands on Zeus's weapon, she never used it. Like, she had it, she didn't use it. She had it.
I think it should have became hers.
I think so too. I thought she should have become Zeus, or King of Gods, Valkyrie, King of Gods, or something.
Oh. That weapon was confusing.
There was nothing cool that happened with it.
But what is it? Is it like a sword, or is it actual lightning that becomes hard?
It's the concept of lightning.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's the concept of lightning that you can throw.
No, I don't think so.
So what happens when he doesn't have it? He doesn't have lightning in his body to throw. It's just that's one.
I think so.
Right there.
I think that's how they were doing it, which I also think is silly. But yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out what the power technically was.
And then I hated to see. Then after she gets stabbed, Thor goes into the final act, and she's like, and it's not him saying you're injured, you can't come. Thor goes into the final act, and she's like, well, I got stabbed. Here you go. See you later.
Yeah.
That's like the anti-Valkyrie. She would have died in combat, gone to Valhalla, fought with Thor until the God Killer was gone.
1000%.
She wouldn't have let him go by himself.
So
one final complaint real quick while I still have complaints fresh on my mind.
Yeah.
You couldn't get to the end of the world, the center of the universe,
until you could.
You couldn't get there unless you had the special thing, and only Gore had the special thing. But then Thor went there anyways with Zeus's lightning bolt, and then Natalie Portman went there with Thor's hammer. So no one could get there unless you have the Bifrost, except if you're anyone else, and then you can get there.
Unless you really
Gore
want
needed the Bifrost. Yeah, that's my last complaint.
Well, real quick, a little side thing. We go back to Valkyrie not having really a good role. Sif was thrown in there for 5 seconds, and then I thought that was also disappointing. I feel like with so many strong female characters, they just didn't use them, and I don't know why. A great opportunity with such great warriors to make them amazing, and they didn't do it.
You do know why. You already figured it out. Korg needed more lines. You figured it out, Sean.
So yeah, along the line of what you're talking about, yes, definitely. Like, when he teleported with the lightning bolt, I was a little upset. I'm like, why can the lightning bolt teleport too? Is that just something that all the weapons do now? Like, they got there really easy, and then Jane got there. And then, yeah, the only saving grace for the Valkyrie situation was that in her mind, she would be a liability and get the children killed. And that's the only reason I accept her staying behind. Other than that, yeah, she probably should have gone and died to go to Valhalla.
Especially after she had already given a talk about how much she hated ravens and dealing with people's bullcrap, and then
wanted
the
to die
bullcrap should have just been ravens anyways, and she just wants to be back out in the fight. And she goes out and gets stabbed once and is like, "Oh man, I need those ravens again, Thor. Why don't you take care of this without me?"
The biggest problem
that is not King Valkyrie.
The biggest problem I have with that situation is I'm pretty sure she got stabbed to put her down so that Natalie Portman was forced to go to that fight. Like, it was just for plot. That was it. It was just to explain why Natalie Portman had to go.
I really wish that Valkyrie had been, like, messed up. Like, if she would have been next to death, I wouldn't have this complaint. Instead, I thought they cheapened the character of Valkyrie by making her be like, yeah, sorry, I'm not going to go fight with you. Good luck. That's not Valkyrie. That's not Valkyrie at all. And I did not like that decision. And that was a writing choice. It was not an acting choice. It's nothing against her.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, we all agree, I think, that the Valkyrie got snubbed a bit in this.
Worth noting that Gore's daughter, who then comes back later in the movie, is Chris Hemsworth's real life daughter. So that's
Aww.
And then
Whoa.
And then
That's
the
adorable.
Matt Damon Thor thing, that's his brother, older brother, Chris Hemsworth, that plays Thor,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Yes.
That
Luke
was so
Hemsworth.
funny. Dude, those cameos were funny as shit.
And the kid running, young Thor, is his son. Is Chris Hemsworth's son when he's running in the woods when they're showing the grown-up version.
Man, they
Yeah.
are paying the Hemsworth family.
And
Yes.
his wife is actually in it too as the wolf woman.
I thought that was her. I
Ah,
thought that
okay.
was her because he was making out with her real hard. And I was like,
And then-
do you guys know anything about that character, about Gore's daughter, in like the greater Lord of Things, or is this all we know? Okay,
So
I,
it
I
does-
didn't know if she was a somebody, if they are a team up that I don't know about.
so it does seem
I'll
that
tell you-
his people don't seem to have any powers. It seems that everything that we saw was because she was imbued with power by eternity.
Yes.
So it looks like she's the. It's less about do we know about his daughter, more what do we know about eternity? Because it seems like she's a vessel for that power.
I just
now.
didn't know if this was a
Like a
hero
thing?
that had existed in the past that anybody knows about, because, with the four nerd brains combined, I figured one of us would know who she was, but it
Haven't
looks like
heard.
we're at a loss.
Did y'all think that he was really gonna wish her back? I thought for a moment he was gonna wish the cancer away.
I thought the
Natalie
cancer. Was,
Portman.
yeah, I thought that was
Because
exactly
I
what
was
was going
like-
to happen.
Regardless if you bring your daughter back, you're gone. Does it really be worth of a life for that to be her to be fatherless?
See,
I
what
think
would
the main thing there is Natalie Portman was probably like, I want to come back and do this one more, but then I'm out.
See,
like I'm good.
What should
I think
the
that's what it was,
actual
too, unfortunately.
ending that should have happened? It wouldn't have been feel good. It would have been much better, and it would have led to more gore. I think the actual ending that should have happened was the Necrosword wasn't destroyed. He got in the Godwell and was compelled by the sword to kill eternity, thus being forced to continue on this quest and not bringing his daughter back. I thought that would have been way cooler.
I wanted to talk for just a second about agents, because there's a couple MCU actors who really must have good agents, and this is what I'm getting at here. In this movie, Jamie Alexander, who plays Lady Sif, right? She's in the first Thor movie. I think she's in the Dark World as well.
Cheers.
Is that right? Disappears from Ragnarok entirely.
She's also in
She's
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
back in this one, in a minor role. Fourth build in the credits. I'm like, what? I mean, obviously Russell Crowe and Natalie Portman get like the featured credits, which is negotiated with the agents and such. But we get Chris Hemsworth, Christian Bale, Tessa Thompson, Jamie Alexander, fourth build. And then going back to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, if you paid attention to the credits in that movie, the featured credit at the end, and Michael Stuhlbarg, who played Dr. West. He's in the first movie, and he shows up in
wow.
Multiverse of Madness in the wedding scene in the
Yeah.
crowd, but gets a featured credit in the billing. Got to give credit to some of these actors working with their agents to get this top good billing placement in these MCU movies that they're barely in. But then also, of course, we haven't touched on the mid-credits scene that introduced Hercules.
Yes, the guy
which-
from that show you guys love.
After the scene, my wife turned to me and went, "Oi!" That's her exact response.
I knew
Yeah,
that
I had-
one was coming and had heard he got cast as Hercules.
There had been some rumblings because there was some, I can't remember where I saw the headline, but there was some headline that was basically like somebody from a much beloved TV show has been like a recent Emmy winner from a much beloved TV show has been cast as a character in an MCU movie or something. Like I had seen that, but then I think a lot of the chatter amongst that was like, is Jason Sudeikis in something? And but no, it was
And this Hercules isn't young. He's
Right
41
there.
years old. So like this Hercules is, not a kid Hercules.
yeah,
No,
this
he's
was
full grown.
Brett
Yeah.
Goldstein appears in a split second
Yeah.
as Hercules. I keep calling him Roy Kent because that's his character's name. But Brett Goldstein's the actor.
No.
Yeah, and I have to give credit to the ringer for this because I was listening to one of their podcasts and they were talking a little bit about this, and I agree with them. It's like this is now 2 MCU movies in a row where we've gotten a new character introduced. Oh, no, a couple, because there's this one. You've got Brett Goldstein as Hercules in this one. You've got Charlize Theron was in the Multiverse of Madness. And then you've got Harry Styles was in the Eternals one.
Right.
And so you've got these like big actors or new characters that get introduced, which is cool. Like it gives that shock moment of like, oh wow, but then it's kind of like, but what's the point? Like okay,
are we gonna see them again? Like
yeah,
how long is it gonna be?
Is that the next Thor movie? Is it going to be Thor versus Hercules or Thor versus the gods? But if so, like when is that coming out? Like
it's Thor v Hercules, Dawn of Jokes.
But like it's something we get this tease, and when are we going to see it? 5 years, 6 years? Like when will this even come to fruition? Which I don't mind it that much because I do like the kind of the cheap pop of introducing these folks, and I like the idea of the mid-credit scene that Marvel's known for.
But it's different now, though. It's different now, though. The original ones worked out the next few movies,
yes.
Like it was always a build up to the next one, not for what they're going to do in Phase 20. Is what it seems like they're setting up with a lot of these inclusions.
Yeah, it was cool when they showed Mjolnir or a Tesseract or a phone that had an Avengers symbol on it. It would be cool if they popped out a phone with an X-Men logo or something like that, but I don't care that Charlize Theron's wearing purple. And I don't care that Roy Kent is going to be Hercules. Like, I just put him on the screen. Like, I don't... So I've seen him in brown leather. Good. That's going to hold me over for 6 years.
Do you care that Harry Styles is going to be an Eternal?
No, because he's not going to show up. He's not going to show up because his paycheck's getting higher and higher with all these movies they're giving him, and his schedule is getting really busy in Hollywood and with his music. So I don't see him showing up anytime soon.
Well, I mean, the Eternals seem to be a one and done watch.
Yeah,
because someone mentioned it on TikTok that I watched. They said all they want is any scene in any MCU movie or show to even remotely deal with the fact that there's a half-birth celestial sticking out of the Earth's crust somewhere, because they haven't since the Eternals came out. It's just like sitting there like this. I don't know.
Yeah. But Hercules, everyone's been kind of screaming for. From fans, they said Hercules should show up at some point because it's such a big name. First of all, in general with pop culture, but also Marvel has the rights to. I don't know if it's rights, but they can use Hercules, as you saw. So I think we might get him sooner than later.
It's my understanding that he's pretty big in the comics, and him and Thor are like bros.
He's been an Avenger at times. Like he's been part of the Avengers. He's usually a good guy. Has been my experience with Hercules. So. Yeah, it'll be interesting. So what's next? Is the next MCU movie supposed to be Black Panther?
Did you see
Wakanda Forever?
Is
Wakanda Forever.
What about the other cameo, Drew? James "The Rock" Johnson. Did you not see that? That was one of the scenes I enjoyed with Korg. Dwayne. His lover's name was Dwayne, and they hold hands over a volcano, and then they make a child.
I forgot about that.
Don't forget, they made it canon that Korg species is all male, and they procreate by holding hands over a volcano.
Well, it's kind of like, do you watch the Orville?
Yes, it's just like them.
Yeah. Oh, real quick, when you go to Eternity, there's a silhouette. What is that silhouette of? That was
cool.
But that's not Galactus looking silhouette.
No, it was Eternity. Eternity is an entity. But
why does it look like a shape of Galactus' like head?
It looks absolutely similar for sure.
And I thought, okay, I'm not seeing things right. That's what Galactus looks like.
It's very similar. It is different, but it's very similar. And I, for a second, thought that when they opened the well, they were actually going to free Galactus on accident.
That's the vibes I was getting from that.
Which would have been cooler. It would have been cooler.
And I would have been like, this is the best movie ever. We're getting Galactus.
If Galactus popped out of that thing, it would be one of the greatest MCU movies ever made, period.
I'm with you. I would have just given you the full credit for that.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
Any other thoughts on this movie?
I liked it. I liked
it,
Thor: Love and Thunder, man. You get a big thumbs up from me. That was a fun comic book movie. It was a fun action romp. I did think that probably the dumbest part of the movie that sticks out to me is the army of children with foam weapons that they didn't bother trying to CG them to make them look sharp or dangerous or anything. They just gave kids a bunch of squared foam weapons and told them to go hit shadow monsters. It was pretty dumb, but it also made me laugh out loud when the little girl karate chopped a shadow monster in half and then another girl blasted lightning out of a bunny's eyes.
It was like
made
Thor
me laugh.
gave them,
it was just stupid.
I actually like.
It was like Thor gave them Compound V. Thor's
Yeah.
version of Compound V. Here you go, kids. Some temporary power. Have fun.
Is it my
I'm not mad
imagination?
that,
Or so he was like, shall be bound with the powers of the Thor, and then he said, temporarily. Like it looked like he winked at the camera when he said that last bit, which was
He broke the
funny.
fourth wall.
Yeah. And then you guys saw the last end credit scene, right?
Yeah.
With the
I did. I'm struggling to even remember what it was.
It was
now.
Thor and the little
Idris-
girl.
Yeah, but oh wait.
Oh wait,
Oh, that was
that was an end credit scene.
no with Idris and when they went
Yes,
to
That was
Valhalla.
it, the Valhalla
Valhalla
scene.
scene.
Yeah,
that was pretty
was right.
nice. I didn't have a problem with that.
That was a nice send off.
It was a nice.
But yeah, we
scene.
can talk about what they said that this is love and thunder is the little girl is love and then
And
thunder was
Thor's. Yeah, I liked that. It sounded like she was getting ready for school because this wasn't end credits. I messed up in my head. I liked that it sounded like she was getting ready for school, but then they go outside their spaceship that they apparently live in and are just going across the galaxy, battling for the undertrodden. The downtrodden and the low people on the totem pole. And it was, and they do the leap, Drew. They do the leap you were talking
they
about.
do a leap again.
Where they jump through the air with the things. Yep.
That
Yes, the
next Thor
teacher.
movie is obviously going to be like a Mr. Mom ripoff or something, or what is it, like 3 Men and a Baby might be something like that. Where
I'll
I
tell
don't
you
know the way they're going.
I'll tell you what. I would prefer that infinitely to my least favorite thing ever in science fiction, which is it's a baby. Psychic grew up in a week to a fully grown adult. I hate that. It ruins everything that's ever happened in it. It ruined the 4400 for me. It ruined Skyfall. It ruined everything that's ever happened in. It's the dumbest thing. I don't want super babies growing up fast. Stop it. Stop it. But yeah, sorry. I had to say that.
Not to do another and one more thing, because I just thought of one other thing, but here we are. Is that Gary touched on it or mentioned it earlier, but we didn't really talk about it. The Korg recaps throughout, where it would flash back and show things, I wasn't a big fan of. There was
More
the
Taika.
one that showed more stuff between Thor and Jane Foster and giving more background to their relationship and how it ended, which was the only one of those that I thought was actually worthwhile because it showed something. But otherwise, I just thought they weren't very funny. They did it too many times. It just didn't really work for me. It was kind of a rip off of the Ant-Man recaps that do work and are funny. That did not. That just didn't really work for me here.
And I don't
Sean
feel like they
nailed it
had that type of
earlier.
relation. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, you nailed it when you said that their chemistry between Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth isn't great. That's why those scenes didn't work, because every time it cut back, it seemed like Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth in a room trying to be funny or trying to get along and be cute. It did not seem like Jane and Thor. It seemed like two actors with no chemistry pretending to have fun. And
it wasn't
like,
realistic in their love life. I don't think any of that would have ever happened. You know, the type of relationship they have is not a typical relationship. They were in love, but they were doing their own thing really early on, since the first Thor movie, because Dark World and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They had a more serious, unfortunate relationship with a lot of darkness around them. So it wasn't all this like college feel relationship.
They did kind of slap like a real modern relationship over, like, and it never existed for anything. Yeah, you're right. I agree.
That was
with
one
that.
of the things that worked so well about the first Thor movie to me, is how she was introduced as like kind of a romantic interest, but like Thor had the stuff going on with the hammer and his own self-worth and everything, his internal problem still was the main focus there. Like, it was a side romance he didn't get too caught up in, and that was unique for one of these superhero movies that didn't have to make the love story be front and center like what was in Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy.
Like Captain America and Peggy, like they were like madly in love, but they didn't have like this typical relationship either.
No.
You know, for obvious reasons. But
see, maybe they don't have.
There are literally like rom-com scenes shoved into this movie that don't need to be there.
I agree.
Yeah, didn't work. The
chemistry might not work because maybe Natalie Portman is trying not to fall into those eyes. You know what I'm saying? Because Chris Hemsworth is a big dreamboat.
That stuff didn't work. Any of her stuff, trying out new catchphrases, all of that fell pretty flat to me.
Why did no one say hammer time? Like, it's hammer time.
Right? Oh my God, Sean,
like,
right?
I was waiting for that. I thought he was like, I heard this great song the other day thanks to whatever, Peter Quill or whatever. How about it's hammer? Try this one.
This song. It's about hammers. I love it.
I really thought that would have been
hammer time. That would cheesy. I would be in for that.
It is cheesy, but it's the right kind of cheesy because they threw an Old Spice commercial into the freaking movie.
That was weird. I thought it
was kind of weird. It would.
I thought that was really funny.
I thought it should have been a lot funnier than I found it because I actually really like Old Spice commercials, and like they make me laugh every time. I just thought it wasn't a good Old Spice commercial. I think was my problem.
Oh, I don't get it. Like, is that how they're making their? I was just confused with that introduction of New Asgard and what its purpose was in the world. It just really made it a joke. As it obviously made it like a Disney World. Yeah, it made it like a Disney World. Yeah. And I thought, why do they go that route? Like, why did they make it a Disney World? What happened where they had no respect of being Asgardians? Like, they just threw them as like Disney workers in there? Like, that was kind of strange.
Yep. They're all a bunch of silly actors and Disney workers and cosplayers now.
I think this is my last thing. I would like to mention I really liked the rainbow goat-pulled boat. I thought it was fantastic. The screaming goats definitely got on my nerves pretty quick. But then, like, towards the end, like, they hadn't done it in a while, and then they came back and they were still screaming, and I died. It got me.
Yeah, that was a good spot when it's been a while, when they disappeared.
It didn't once work for me.
It worked for me a few times. But no, I just enjoyed it was just so, like, painted on the side of a van, man. It was so heavy metal. It was so 80s. It was awesome.
The Screaming Goats memes and the Screaming Goats videos and jokes are from like 9 or 10 years ago on the internet.
Listen,
it's just like the oldest joke, and it's
New Zealand
not
is
funny.
so behind. New Zealand doesn't have the fastest internet, so now he's just getting those videos in New Zealand. All right, Tyka's like, I finally got this one.
He comes in and he's like, guys, look! He plays the video on YouTube, and they're all like, what's up? Did you guys know there's screaming goats? Like, isn't this crazy?
I would say my final thought, and I'll wrap it up, is I felt this movie was on par with how Doctor Strange 2 was. It's, really self-contained. I'm ready for bigger stuff. I'm ready for something huge. I feel like it's been forever since Endgame, and I want some really fun stuff and epic cinematography. I want the Russo brothers back. I'm tired with these too fancy, comedic, and like kind of silly movies. I kind of want some seriousness back in the MCU, to be honest.
Yeah, I think what James Gunn did, while it was really cool, might have actually hurt the superhero industry in the long run. James Gunn did it, and it worked, and it was fun, and it was colorful, but that doesn't mean that everyone needs to make their version of a James Gunn movie.
Yes.
There's something missing now. They took an ingredient out, and they replaced it with funny. And I'm a comedian, man. I like funny, but you're right. There's something that's not right about these superhero movies. There's not a team anymore. There is no Avengers. They need to rebuild a team. They need to rebuild a plot. They need to rebuild a narrative. Right now, these are cool superhero movies, but yeah, I'm with you, Sean. I want to see some big event. I want to see something grand, and it feels like the pieces aren't even in place for them to start doing that yet. And I don't know what they're waiting on.
I don't want the Avengers. I want the Defenders. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that the Netflix people might be able to bring the grit back.
We already got the Defenders, man. Move on. It's on Netflix.
No, I want to see them in the MCU though, and not Iron Fist though. He can stay far.
Well, I'll tell you this: Jessica Jones will show up in She-Hulk.
Yes.
And then you have Daredevil and Kingpin and Echo. So that's hopefully good enough for
and
you.
Daredevil in Daredevil, I believe, was already confirmed as well, right?
Maybe. That was really soft for me to agree with that's happening.
Okay.
Maybe
somewhat.
we'll find out more
After Echo.
Hey.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully. I hope
still
so.
think Daredevil is going to be the main character of Echo, is my guess. Is that they didn't want to say, hey, we're making a Daredevil show yet. And so they're going to use the Echo show as a vehicle to feed us Daredevil.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. That makes sense.
I believe that actress is going to be at Comic Palooza here in a couple weeks, or next weekend.
I don't know how to sign, but hopefully if one of y'all can, I'll take y'all with me and we can ask her.
It's actually something I'm
right.
needing to learn. It's a good
And I will issue one correction to earlier, because I have been corrected on something, which is that Taika Waititi is an executive producer on Our Flag Means Death, one of 4 executive producers, to be clear. And he directed an episode, but he's not the creator of that show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he just put his little stink on there so that people would say, "Hey, look, it's a Taika's in it, Taika show." He put just enough of his stink on there. Put just enough money.
He put a lot of his stink on that show.
I feel like my initial point still stands of what I was trying to say with it, but just wanted to be factually correct there. So
yeah, he's a little bit creatively involved, not running it though.
I feel like we've kind of beat these goats to death here on this film. Is there any other last thoughts?
Man, I loved it, and I want more gore. That's all I want. I want more gore.
We can all agree on that. More gore.
More gore.
I wanted to see Moon Knight and his god in the chamber, Moon Knight or his god. As soon as it became about killing gods, I was like, yes, they just invented a character who's powered by gods, and then they didn't. That's my last.
That would have been cool. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I do think, again, I was pretty mixed. I was pretty negative, actually, coming out of it. I was like, I don't know if I liked that very much. Actually, talking with y'all, there are things about it that, just hearing how it played with you, I'm like, oh, maybe I do need to reevaluate this or give it a revisit. I actually rewatched Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness here recently, and I feel still pretty solid in my thoughts there, but I think I liked it more with expectations managed. So, I'm still pretty mixed on this one, but I can agree. A fun time.
I think what I've learned is if you really like Valhalla, like if you loved, Ragnarok, if you loved Ragnarok, you might not like this one as much, I think is what I'm learning.
See, I did like Ragnarok.
Did you love Ragnarok, or you just, it was alright?
Oh yeah, I meant to say that earlier, because I only talked about the first 2 movies because Ragnarok, in my opinion, is so good I didn't need to say it again. Because Ragnarok's my favorite Thor movie for sure. So I started to throw a wrench in that theory.
No, that does throw the wrench in.
If I'm ranking Thor movies for myself, I'm going Ragnarok number 1, Thor number 2, Love and Thunder number 3, and The Dark World number 4.
That's me exactly. I'm right there with you.
That'd be me too if I did drugs.
Well, I do a bunch of drugs, but I did not do the same thing that they did. I'm going the reverse release order. I like the Thor movies in the exact opposite order they came out.
I am also going in the reverse release order.
Love and Thunder, Ragnarok, Dark World,
Elf,
Thor,
and yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
so
interesting.
Yeah, and a lot of my reason why I like this one more, I think, is Gore the God Butcher was much better than Hela. She was cool, but I don't need to see you throw swords out of your hair ever. That's stupid. Get out of my face.
But props to Christian Bale and Cate Blanchett, who are both just super accomplished actors in their own right, coming in and being
bigger than
I'm
MCU.
just gonna go all out playing a Marvel villain for one movie and then be on my way.
She was great.
Collect that paycheck and go. I'm happy to see you. I'm all good.
Did you see who played Hela in this one?
Yes. let's not tell anybody. That whole sequence of those cameos was hilarious. I loved it.
I did not mind that bit being continued into this movie. I actually did get a chuckle.
Matt Damon did coming back. Oh man! And then when they came up to Tessa Thomas in the Great Hall and were like, "We want to write a play about what just happened," that shit was funny.
Yeah, that made that go from funny to really, really funny when they showed back up and were like, "Can we make a play about the children being abducted?"
They actually take their craft extremely seriously in this gag in the film. Yeah,
Open,
I can agree with that.
New Valhalla, nighttime. It was a dark night, and then they just walk away. It's so good. But yeah, that's it. I got nothing else.
All right. It's getting late. Let's wrap it up.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hit us with hashtag more gore on Twitter. I am Johananon at RockFact on Twitter.
It's me, Casualty CDG, and if you like tabletop role-playing games, you can find Jahan and I Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday playing tabletop games from 8 p.m. until 11 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're about to start a brand new game on Thursdays, Fantasy Age. We haven't played a fantasy game in like a year and a half. We've played all these different settings, so if you want to see us kind of try to tackle the original sword and sorcery type of landscape, that'll be every Thursday. Every other Wednesday, we're playing superhero games where I play a duplicating teleporter. That's a lot of fun. And then Fridays, we're playing Modern Age, something set in the then and now, kind of like a multi-universal apocalyptic scenario going on over there. So if you're interested in watching us make up stories and jokes and things as we go along, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at twitch.tv/Johananon or on our YouTube, Fresh Out the Box TTRPG. Thank you guys, and we'll see you every Sunday with Fresh Out the Podcast.
And I am Drew Munhausen at Drew Munhausen on Twitter. I'm going to let Sean give a shout out to Nerdtropolis here in a second, but I'm going to shout it out first because I've actually got a couple reviews that'll be dropping on nerd-tropolis.com here in the coming week. I've got one dropping on Monday and one on Tuesday. I'll talk about those more on future episodes, but thanks for tuning in. And Sean, where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm Sean Taj, the mayor of Nerdtropolis. You can find us on Facebook at Nerdtropolis and Instagram. And like Drew said, nerd-tropolis.com for all your movie news, reviews, interviews, and trailers.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening. Stay fresh.
Fresh out the box. out the box.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Fresh Out the Podcast. I'm the board game guru and game master extraordinaire, Jahananan.
It's me, Casualty CDG. I'm a retired child crimes and human trafficking detective, turned tabletop titan, an improv comedian, and I'm just ecstatic to be here, guys.
Recently put on lithium. Casualty CDG.
I am the professional media and movie mastermind, the Funhouse Drew Munhausen. And if you listened to our last episode, which was episode 53, we talked Thor, Love, and Thunder. In-depth details, spoilers, all the above. This episode is going to be a little bit of a step back to talk about all the other stuff that we have been watching or enjoying recently. But guys, I did it. I've done it. I've witnessed the rise of Gru himself and his minions. I've seen it. I saw it. I saw the minions, guys. Saw them. Are y'all on board the minions craze?
I'm on board.
This is crazy to me. There's like what 3 Despicable Me's in the Minions movie in Rise of Gru? Is that it? Is it just the 5, or does this keep spanning further than the eye can see?
You never have to stop making minion movies.
You are correct. There are 3 Despicable Me proper franchise entries. Then there's the spin-off Minions, and this is a sequel to the spin-off Minions, and it is called Minions: The Rise of Gru.
Actually,
Features a young Gru. Excuse me. It almost sounds like I could be saying my own name, which is Drew, but this is Gru that we're talking about.
Yeah, thanks for the clarity. I was totally lost, and now I am back. Thank you for showing me the way and showing me the light. I'm actually a pretty big fan of these Despicable Me movies. I did not see a standalone Minions movie, and I definitely didn't see the prequel to a standalone Minions movie.
I'm already caught off guard with Gary's more positive than expected reaction to the Minions.
Before we get into any of this, first I would like to say happy anniversary, guys. It has been officially 1 year of Fresh Out the Podcast.
We did an episode where we talked about the anniversary already.
Yeah, but it's actually our anniversary, though.
Well, we did it was 52 episodes, so it was a year of episodes, but our recording date now is truly a year from.
Yes.
So it's a little confusing. And
Whatever.
this episode is going to drop next week, too.
Either way,
just to make it even more confusing, John.
Either way, Drew, both of you, I got you guys something. I got you guys a present. All right, so just
Oh, I like presents. I take it all back.
I orchestrated this.
Hold on,
this.
before you do this, before you even finish, are you about to give us the middle finger?
Check under your chairs. Just check under your chairs. I got you guys a present. Just go on. Just go on. Look.
Drew, I lived with him, Drew. Like I know.
Go on.
I know it's the middle finger.
Just look under your chairs, though. How could
Gary,
my
should
middle
I just
finger?
humor him? Should I humor him?
Yeah, he probably put both of our presents under your chair.
Here I go. I'm looking under my chair.
There he goes. Uh-oh. Look, Drew.
It's the middle finger right here, you idiot. There's nothing under your chair.
Yeah.
Ben.
How would he orchestrate that? You've been in the room, you idiot.
I thought maybe he'd snuck in
Oh
here.
boy,
man.
Gary, you got me good on
earlier.
that, dude.
Thank you.
Oh, you got me good on that one. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to be so predictable, Gary, but I do enjoy giving the middle finger.
I like the Minions movies, man. I like the super villain aspect, and I liked Mastermind too for the same reason. I kind of like to see a silly super villain CGI kids movie. Maybe I'm just a guilty pleasure that just kind of calls to me, but I like them. I like those movies, and the Minions to me are just kind of silly and dumb. But I like the super villain, so I think I'm more interested in what Gru has going on more than the Minions.
Did you see the first Minions movie?
No, I didn't.
Okay. It's just basically the origin of the Minions and how they bounced around.
You'd be lost.
Different bad guy to different bad guy, and how they came.
But you have to see the first Minions movie for Rise of Gru to make sense. If you don't see it, then you won't follow the story.
Not at all. Not at all. No.
There's some high concept stuff that you have to understand going in.
No, definitely not. You want to know something crazy? Despicable Me 3 and the first Minions movie both grossed over $1 billion. Isn't that crazy?
That is
Not surprised
crazy.
about that.
That's a lot of money.
Those are fun. Those are good, fun movies. Those are a blast, bro.
Well, I would ask if there's going to be another one, but if it grossed $1 billion, of course there's going to be another one.
Well, the newest one is definitely raking in more and more money, so it's definitely already an early success. Especially, I don't know if y'all saw the Gentle Minions trend and social media buzz.
All the people going to the movie dressed in suits and stuff.
Suits.
So.
Yeah, that was the thing. I did actually see some kids
Nice.
at my screening. I went during an early one in the day, but there were still a few kids in suits there. They were not disruptive or anything, so it was fine. But yeah, it's been a whole thing. Anyway, yeah, this movie is there's not really much to say about it, guys. It's a Minions movie. They make me laugh sometimes, and that was consistent in this film. It's very, very disposable animated content. Like, I watched it, I got a few chuckles, I moved on, except to just mention it on my podcast that I'm on. Otherwise, I pretty much forgot that this movie existed.
There's definitely
the Minions
make a lot of money.
They're like the Three Stooges for kids. There's three of them generally, right? There's a group of them. They go around. They get in trouble. A lot of it is like big, silly body humor or things where they're supposed to get hurt or other people fall. Or it's slapsticky, and it's innocent slapstick humor, and that's timeless. It may not be the highest form of comedy.
There are indeed
And they talk funny.
3 main Minions that are in the Minions movies. Their names are Stuart, Kevin, and Bob. So
Of course they are.
There you go. And there's a new one in this one, of course. There's a new Minion. I believe his name is Otto. That
is way better than what I thought you were going to say his name was.
His last name, however, is erotic asphyxiation. So
yes. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
That's it. Yeah, I was.
my only complaint about Minions 2 is that it features a little bit too much Gru. You know, there's 3 Despicable Me movies that are all about Gru. This one's a prequel with the rise of Gru, but he's a little kid, but just a little bit too much Gru. If I'm going to see my Minions in theater, just give me more Minions.
It's called Rise of Gru, you jerk off.
Jeez.
It's called Minions: The Rise of Gru. Minions should come first.
Wait, there's a colon
Not
in this
Gru.
movie?
Oh God! Oh, let's move on. John's gonna make me mad.
Yeah, that's one thing I can almost guarantee you. Yeah, that's it. He is gonna do that.
That's how it happens. That's how it starts.
Anyways, as far as stuff we've been watching on a more I'd say on a more serious note, although there's nothing more serious than the Minions. I did see The Black Phone, which is a Blumhouse horror movie that recently came out, directed by Scott Derrickson, starring Ethan Hawke, based on a short story. And I thought the trailers for this looked really good. And Ethan Hawke wearing this mask, if you've seen that in trailers, like I just liked the aesthetic of it, and the trailer looked thoroughly creepy. And the movie's fine. Like, it's not bad or anything. It's not as scary as I thought it would be.
So here's the thing.
What it is.
I wanted to see Black Phone. We almost went to the theaters to see it. We looked up the time and everything, and we got ready to go and decided not to. And not really for any particular reason. We just ended up watching some streaming content instead. But I watched the trailer, then I watched it again, and I think I watched it a third time. And the first time I watched it, I was like, boy, that looks scary. And the second time I watched it, I was like, oh no, that's not scary. That's like kind of a weird sci-fi mind thriller is what's going on here. It's not really scary. It's more weird and
like Twilight
psychological,
Zone-y.
I think. So I'm not surprised to hear that it wasn't really scary. Was it kind of psychological and weird?
Yes, and Ethan Hawke is very good in it, behind a mask pretty much the entire time, and still has a really good performance. But yes, it does a lot of time. You know how sometimes these horror movies will, like, you know, within the first 15 minutes, because if you don't know, the premise of the movie is there's a guy called the Grabber who's been abducting children in this town, and then the main boy gets abducted, finds himself in a room.
Don't want to get grabbed by the Grabber.
He is called the Grabber. You
Why
get
do they
grabbed
call
by the
him that?
Grabber, and and he is in a room that's with just a bed and a phone, being held captive there. And the phone rings, and he speaks to the ghosts of children that have been previously abducted. That's the general premise. It takes like a good 30 plus minutes or so into the movie before the main kid even ends up there. So it spends a lot of time kind of building up the history of the Grabber, which I know y'all are going to laugh every time I say that, but that is what he's called in the movie. It becomes, Gary, to your point, it becomes more of like a psychological, you know, is he going to escape, and how are all these pieces going to kind of tie together, and are they going to find where he's at? There are a lot of supernatural aspects to the movie, like involving his sister and things I won't get into. But I will say there are a few moments in it with some really really spike your anxiety in a way, like sneaking past a sleeping person trying to escape, and you know, that kind of like feeling of dread that's done really well. So if you're into that kind of thing, that's not necessarily a make you jump horror, but more of an edge of your seat, you know.
Right,
Oh
and
my
it's
God,
not a lot of
Thriller.
It didn't seem like a lot of gore either, right? Which is one of my bigger things. I don't want to see a whole lot of gore.
No, there's really not. Now that you say it, I mean, there are some intense scenes, or like, you know, where there's ghost children and you see a little bit of them, but a lot of times they're kind of in the background and they're not even immediately on display. So yeah, it's not anything too bad.
So I haven't seen it, but would it be fair to, like, I don't know, to say, to me, it kind of looked like similar to an early M. Night Shyamalan type of thing. It looked like it was kind of smart and twisty, and you didn't know it was going to happen, and it makes you, you know, it's scary, but it's not scary.
It's actually a good way to put it. Like, maybe a little bit more tonally in line with The Sixth Sense, which is, I think, of those early M. Night Shyamalan, probably the scariest one. Because there are some ghosts and some jumps in it, and so maybe more in line with that. There's not a lot of jump scares in this movie at all. It's just, like you said, it's a thriller. It's yeah. So that's actually a pretty good comparison. A little bit more R-rated because there's, you know, some language, and there are, you know, there is some imagery of, you know, I want to say dead children, but like heavily
kids,
made
yeah.
up ghost dead children that don't necessarily, to me, don't resemble anything real enough to be overly traumatic, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay. It's okay. It's not the best movie I've seen, but I enjoyed my time. I had a really terrible theater experience for this. Just on a weekday night, going to see it with disruptive people going in and out. You would think on a weeknight it would be fine, but we are in the middle of the summer and people are going to the movies again. And there were a lot of teenagers that were running in and out of the theater during this one that were really, really awful, really terrible.
Yeah, that's no
and
good.
they were the types of ones that if you tried to call them out for what they were doing, instead of backing down, they would just try to make your night even worse.
Does that mean you called them out, Drew?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Other people did, and it was unfortunate. So anyway,
Ooh, that sounds like my type of theater experience.
Yeah, Gary will get all loud.
No, they will be at the. I'll take them out of the fucking theater.
Yeah.
You don't have to hurt anybody to take them out of the theater.
We didn't talk about our theater experiences for Thor. The only thing I wanted to say about that was there was a lady in the back that every now and again she'd be like, "Ha!" Like, it was just really good.
Wow, Jahan's mad at somebody for laughing and having a good time.
I wasn't mad. It was funny. It was like that lone laugh in the dark that everyone would. It would like cascade. Everyone else would start laughing.
My theater was packed but quiet and respectful. Nobody was shining their phone in anybody's eyes. Nobody was stomping around being a jerk off. And there was one cheer in the theater when they said that Dr. Jane Foster was from New Mexico. Other than that, everybody else kept to their seats, kept to themselves. It was nice and polite. It was a great experience at Thor.
That'd a good one too.
On the topic of movies, I also watched The Bad Guys, which I know, Gary, you've seen. You've talked about it on here before.
I did not like it.
On Peacock now. And, I mean, it was about as disposable, if not more so, than Minions was, like I was saying. Like, it wasn't offensively bad or anything, but there wasn't anything all that memorable about it. I will say this about it. I liked the animation style. Like, it kind of... I don't know. It had a little bit of an interesting
Looney Tunesy.
Like, it was, yeah, where they were 3-dimensional, but their eyes almost looked like they were hand-drawn 2D. It was different. There was something that was kind of striking there. It's really the only thing about it that stuck out at all.
I'll still always remember that it was like a bad Zootopia, and then I turned around to go watch Zootopia immediately afterwards and loved Zootopia.
I could totally now. I remember you saying that before, and now having seen it, there were definitely things in it that made me think of Zootopia, especially because there's a Fox police character in the movie, and there's one of the main characters in Zootopia is a fox, and they're worked into these societies differently, I guess.
Yeah, the way that the Zootopia society is like this animal society that's really cool with all these different like biomes and creatures, and they work all these daily jobs. But in The Bad Guys, it's just like these cartoon characters kind of thrust into a human world haphazardly. And I didn't think it played quite as well. I thought the Zootopia world was way more thought out.
Yes, I totally agree. Zootopia actually stands alone as a really, really great animated movie. The Bad Guys is very disposable animated content.
I
would love to get a Zootopia sequel.
I like the hamster businessmen in Zootopia. They're adorable.
The mobster?
No, the little hamsters that he feeds all the little popsicles to.
Oh yeah.
It's adorable.
The only other movie I wanted to mention, let's see, at the time this episode drops, this movie will have just come out in theaters. I actually, as of the time we're recording, my review for it is under embargo until Tuesday, but I'll just give a few thoughts. And it's called Where the Crawdads Sing. This is have y'all heard of this?
Not even a whisper.
So this is a super, super popular book that came out in 2018. And it kind of rose to prominence because Reese Witherspoon, I guess, featured it in her book club that she does through social media that's very popular. And it made this book like one of the best-selling books of all time. It sold like 12 million copies. It's a very popular book. It's kind of a murder mystery. There's a girl who lives in the marsh, and she's being accused of a murder, and it's a did she or did she not do it kind of thing, while flashing back to some romance subplots in the book and movie. So anyway, they made a movie of this that's executive produced by Reese Witherspoon and stars Daisy Edgar Jones, and I don't want to go, like I said, because we're recording right now. I'm under embargo.
Yeah, you can't.
But I think
much.
I can give some just like general social media-esque thoughts, and I'll just say, tonally, it kind of feels like if a murder mystery met The Notebook. Like, that's kind of I went into this expecting more murder mystery drama, and it's much more romantic, like The Notebook stuff, but on with the setting of like a murder mystery that's happened. So that's all I'll really say about it. So it kind of left me wanting. I just didn't know what to expect going in, and I wanted a little bit of column A, and I got more of column B, if that makes sense. So
yeah, sure.
But that's where the crawdads sing. At the time this has posted, or this audio goes up, my review will have posted on Nerd-Tropolis, nerd-tropolis.com. Go there to read it, and find out more about what I thought. But yeah, that's where the crawdads sing. I'm interested to see how this movie does. Movies are doing well right now. Like the box office is kind of back, at least for now. For the summer, people are going to the movies. But it's been a lot of the big tentpole blockbusters. Obviously we just had Thor: Love and Thunder, and we've had Minions do really well, and we've had Top Gun just chugging along, and Jurassic World Dominion. Movies are making money.
Boo.
A movie like this that's based off of a very popular book. I'm just interested to see how it does at the box office. So remains to be seen. Any movies that y'all been checking out recently?
You mentioned Jurassic World again. I just quick thought on that. So my mom finally started watching it, and about 20 or 30 minutes in, I think it was a scene where Blue has a child. She shrugged, was and she went upstairs. So there's a review from my mom of Jurassic World. But yeah,
I think that's a fair review. I think that's completely fair. If I
eh.
was writing for a newspaper, I could just write meh, walks out of room. That's a pretty fair review of Jurassic World.
Movies. I think the only movie on my list was Chrissy Hemsworth in Spiderhead.
I've been wanting to watch this. I haven't yet. It's the same director that did Top Gun Maverick, and Miles Teller's in it, and he's in Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah,
also.
And they actually
but I know
snuck
this
one out. This is one of the newest additions to the Spider-Man movie series.
Yeah.
They snuck this one out on the down low. Spiderhead. If
he
you guys want
just
to check
has
this out.
a spider head.
Mm-hmm.
None of the other powers.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, he's just a normal guy with a spider's head. Yep. Drew hates this, so let's continue. Netflix.
Y'all, my brain just goes. No,
His
I'm out.
brain
And I let
turned
y'all
off.
finish.
I watched him just turn off his brain. But yeah, Netflix. Spiderhead's on Netflix. So a lot of people crapped on this movie, said it was terrible. I liked it. I don't know. Maybe I just like Journey Smolt, who's also in this movie. Miles Teller, I thought, did pretty well. I thought Chris Hemsworth gave a very good performance in this movie. But long story short about it, it is about an alternative prison where you volunteer to have pharmaceuticals tested on you in exchange for getting to not be in a regular prison. It's a really nice prison with gourmet food and what's up?
I watched this entire movie and forgot.
I mean, yeah, that's a review. I kind of forgot too, but then I was trying to think of everything I watched, and I was like, oh yeah, Spiderhead. It was fine. It was definitely. I mean, it's on Netflix. You don't have to pay money for it if you already have Netflix. This movie it's a decent movie going experience. Journey Smolt's great, and there's some weird stuff. It's got some interesting themes in it. It's got some cheap laughs. It's got some really cheap laughs.
So I would
actually,
say
now that I think about it.
the important notes I would say of Spiderhead are Thor is playing a doctor
Yes.
who is testing drugs on prisoners.
Yes.
And the drugs make them either full of rage or lust. And
Yes.
you can kind of see how that story plays out.
See, that makes it sound way cooler than it is. Because I would watch that movie again.
Well, that is what that is.
It is, like, technically. But, like, in my mind, you're bringing up, like, oh, man, like, they just, like, put them full of rage juice and let them go at it and beat each other. Or, like...
Yeah, I mean, it's, like, more in, like, a padded room behind glass.
Yeah,
but yeah.
It wasn't actually rage juice. It was terror juice. It would, like, pure terror juice, which is pretty fun. Good name for a band. But yeah, I thought it was. I definitely would not be like this is the greatest movie ever, but it was definitely a decent movie to watch. Especially, it's a good Netflix movie. It's a passable Netflix movie.
I will check this out at some point. I've seen a lot of mixed things about it, but I've seen people that are positive on it and have said the same thing as you, Jahan, where it's like, hey, I enjoyed this. It's not the most memorable thing in the world, but like there's something to find here.
I actually thought Chris Hemsworth did a good job. I thought his performance was pretty good.
Nah, Chris Hemsworth was pretty bad. He's a pretty bad villain. That movie could have been totally different. It would have been a different villain opposite Miles Teller. It could have really been a striking performance, and instead it was kind of forgettable.
It could have been. I guess it could have been like more. I don't know. It could have been more of a like
cerebral.
Yeah, that's the word I was going to use. I was trying to think of a different word actually, but yeah, cerebral. This
is one of those movies that was filmed during COVID, and I've heard that that's very prominent throughout. Like, yeah, it's a lot of, not very many people together at once, people in separate rooms, kind of thing.
There is a lot of that. That's so weird.
You could tell from a mile away.
That's so weird to think about. All right. That's all
I'm a mark for Miles Teller. I'm going to watch anything with Miles Teller in it.
Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four, Whiplash, Spiderhead. Give me my Miles Teller.
I don't necessarily like him, but I find him interesting, and especially after seeing Top Gun Maverick, I'm like, and if he might win me over in Spiderhead, I don't know. I'll have to see it.
He's hateable.
He's definitely not going to win you over in Spiderhead.
He's so hateable. You just want to punch him in his hateable face.
Yes.
That's why I think he would have been a good Han Solo, because Han Solo's kind of supposed to be annoying and hateable, and you kind of want to punch Han Solo in the face.
Yeah, but you can't cast Miles Teller as Han Solo, because eventually Han Solo becomes handsome. And that's just not going to happen with Miles Teller and his weird face.
Yeah, nah, he's a goofy-looking bastard.
He is.
What else you been watching, Jahan? Anything big movies times?
Big movies? No, that's all my movies. I've watched a lot of shows. I didn't realize how many until I was putting this list together. But
well, let's talk about some of your favorite shows. I haven't watched any movies in years.
One of my outliers, one of my weird ones that is probably like eyebrow raising. I watched the first couple of The Terminal List with Chris Pratt. It's like a military like spy kind of thing, kind of like Jason Bourne or what's a better example? What's the one with Tom Cruise? It's not Mission Impossible. Jack Reacher.
I can't believe you watched that.
Yeah, I know. Well, so I like family time. I like watching it with my parents. My dad on Sundays. This is his shtick. This is his genre. He loves this like spy. This is dad stuff. This is a dad show, dude. But I don't know. There's a little bit too much Star Spangled Awesome in this for sure. A little bit of American exceptionalism going on screen. A little bit of a little white savior, if you know what I mean. But honestly, it's not. It's
Chris
interesting.
Pratt? No.
Yeah, right. So it's interesting. It is. Like Jack Reacher, it's like all of those things I listed, but like they also have this like psychological part where he has it's not just that he has severe PTSD. That's been done. You know what I mean? It's that he doesn't know if what he's seeing is real, and honestly, like some of it you don't know as the audience either in the first couple episodes. It's it's like you're wondering if you're really watching what's happening or not. And it was pretty good. I was engaged in the first 2 episodes, which surprised me because I don't like Chris Pratt that much.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for this, and I saw Chris Pratt playing an army guy, and I was like, okay, I get it. Like, I'm good. I'll skip it.
It wasn't bad.
Another show we're gonna have Chris Pratt not be funny. Like, doesn't sound like what I want to watch.
It wasn't bad. I did enjoy it. I thought it was interesting. I don't know. But it definitely doesn't benefit from having specifically Chris Pratt. You could put a lot of people in this particular spot. I don't think he adds too much to it. But yeah, it was okay. Man, I've been watching a lot of stuff. Gary's been watching this one. This is an animated show on Netflix. Dead End Paranormal. Oh yeah, and Terminal. This is on Prime, by the way. I didn't say that. Dead End Paranormal Park is an animated show on Netflix about a kid who leaves his home because his parents are kind of messed up about some. Well, I mean, it's about some trans issues. Like they didn't speak. It's a whole thing. The show was brought up to me because I love Gravity Falls, and it was like, hey, if you like Gravity Falls, you should check out. And I was like, yeah, right. Watched the first episode, I was like, this is not bad. I don't think it's going to be as good as Gravity. And then I watched the second episode, I was like, man, this is pretty good. And then I kept watching them. This show's fantastic. I love this show. I love the characters. It's about he lives at the theme park, and then he has a friend who doesn't, but they both work at this theme park. It's kind of like Dolly Parton's theme park kind of style thing. It's like it's an actress's theme park, and it like has all the zones for her movies and stuff. And the girl that works with the main character is a big fan of hers, and just crazy stuff goes on. There's a talkie dog and there's a demon as a main character, but it is, I believe, rated G or PG. It is a acceptable for children show, and a lot of great representation. It's done very well, and just a lot of really cool like lore, monsters, mythology, good times. It is a good, like, almost Kids on Bikes, but kind of like a little older supernatural cartoon show. It's very fun. I like it a lot.
Yeah. I'm going to echo what Jahan said. It's very cool. It reminded me of Gravity Falls, but nothing is Gravity Falls. It's so don't go in with the expectation it's going to be as good as Gravity Falls. But it does deal with a lot of that same supernatural stuff. The park is haunted, so there are, ghosts and werewolves and demons and all that sort of thing going on. And the kids are solving it. And it's fun. I recommend it. I recommend it for cartoon likers. I feel like I watch a lot of cartoons, and not a lot stand out these days.
Yeah,
and I think that Paranormal Park is worth checking out.
If you're an animated fan of animation, then definitely check out Dead End Park on Netflix. Fantastic.
Also on Netflix right now is a show that's not actually a Netflix show. It's a show that I have binge watched in a week. I cannot recommend Alone enough. I like Survivor, right? I like the idea of Survivor, but once people start playing tug of war and joining teams and getting immunity idols, I think the whole thing gets a little silly. They're not really surviving, right? They're playing a game show on an island where they're also sort of surviving as like a secondary. But in Alone, of which there are 9 seasons now, season 8 is on Netflix. It's a History Channel show. All the rest of the seasons are on Hulu. I've already started season 1 now. I plan on watching every season. They take 10 contestants to completely deserted places. The season on Netflix is Grizzly Country, in between Northern California and Alaska, out in deep in a Canadian park. And so there are angry, hungry grizzlies all over the place. 10 contestants, they're taken out there. Each of them has like one bag and things they're allowed to bring. You have to live off the land. You have to make your own shelter, make your own fire. And eventually, after like the 45-day mark, the showrunners come out and like test your vitals to make sure that you are still even capable of performing, because apparently there was no research for, long-term survival alone in the wilderness. And so they're also using this as sort of a scientific research project. The show is awesome. You win $500,000 if you're the last one out there, and they stay out there for, like I said, over 40 days, 50, 60, 70 days, just out there.
I'm looking at this, Gary, because I'm interested in this because Gary's gone out of his way, like messaged me individually and been like, "Hey, this show."
Me too.
Like,
he told me.
I know this is something Gary's into, and I've just been looking at Wikipedia at different seasons, and it'll list the contestants, and it has the status of who won and whatnot, but it'll say like why people tapped out of the show or why, and like this first one of the earlier seasons, not to spoil, Gary, I hope this isn't one that you're like watching or something I'm going to spoil, but like one guy lasted 6 hours because he got scared by a bear. And like that quit after 6 hours, but the winner went 66 days.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
somebody
exactly
got medically evacuated after a week because he split his tendon with an axe.
Ooh, oh god, that makes me hurt so bad.
And so one of the cool things about watching this show is the psychological effect of them being alone. And it's not filmed with camera crews on the island. It is filmed more like the less whatever his name is survival show. It's not like Bear Grylls where he has a crew with food. Everyone has GoPros, everyone has trail cameras, and they have 2 steady cams. And so everything you're seeing is first-hand accounts where, the guy who quit out from bears, it might be the guy who I saw in season 1. Literally straight into the episode, there's this guy, and he's like, I'm a police officer, and, dealing with those wild criminals out on the street is the same as dealing with wild animals in the woods. And I just burst out laughing and was like, you're an asshole.
You are
like, that is not the same thing. So the boat drops him off, and then, like, he turns around and watches the boat leave, and you see his eyes, like, well up with tears as soon as the boat leaves, and he's like, man, it's so weird just seeing them leave you out here all alone. He walks into the woods, like, 30 feet, sees a family of bears in the trees, and runs back to the beach and just stays there. He stays on the beach. He spends the night on the beach. Bears come and sniff him in the night, and he wakes up and calls and evacuates. And I was like, wow, bro, dealing with the wild animals on the streets is just like dealing with the wild animals out here, huh? Tell me how tough you are, boy. Without your people to come back you up, without your gun, how tough are you, Mr. Lawman?
I mean, that's pretty funny.
That guy he was such a tool, and I think that would have sold you on the show. But it's great. There's all these range of people, right? I would love to be a casting director for a reality show like this because I think there's some sort of balance of picking douchebags who you think need to be put in their place and go home, and then picking people who have a chance to win. And I always love watching douchebags fail.
At least for good seasons, that's true. I agree. So, yeah, no, I'm actually a big fan of these survival shows, too. I really like Naked and Afraid, and it's just really hard to find good survival shows.
It is.
I'm excited to watch this. This is one. I'm excited to watch this.
This is not just a good survival show. It's great. There are like pop-up tool tips at the bottom left that explain what the people are doing, how much weight they've lost since day one, how many calories are in the food that they're picking up, and how many they'll need to sustain their week. Like, there's all kinds of cool pop-ups and information to keep you kind of clued in. And then every time somebody gives up, like, paramedics come with a camera crew. So you get the first-hand, here's what they look like when we get here, here's what they're saying, here's why they gave up. You see a lot of people dealing with the depression of being alone and without their family members, and how they're trying to, like, build themselves up and psych themselves into staying. It's great, man. It's a psychological challenge, it's a physical challenge, and it's just, the way it's filmed is also raw and firsthand and real. And it's great to sit here on your couch and eat food in a warm building and, like, talk crap about how these people suck and how they're making stupid decisions.
It is real fun.
Like, it's really, it's just like the quintessential American experience to shit talk survivors from the comfort of my couch.
No, I'm here for it, man.
So everybody, please watch Alone on Netflix. Season 8 is on there. There's a character named Biko, and I love Biko. You will probably love Biko. He kind of reminds me of Jahan if Jahan didn't totally suck. So check out Alone on Netflix, then go over and check it out on Hulu.
What's left without my suckage, bro? Like,
you'll see, man. You'll see. Biko's like...
I'll see the guy I could have been.
yeah, he's endearing and he's funny and he's sweet.
Yeah.
And he sings songs and he's useful and
Gotcha.
likable, and he's not that much like you because of all the things I said.
Opposite me. Yeah. It's my Bizarro. So am I a Bizarro somebody?
All right. Also on Hulu, I was telling you guys Alone is on Netflix and Hulu. Also on Hulu is The Orville. I talk about it every week. Every time I get a chance, I try to tell you guys about it. They revisited one of the episodes from season one. If you guys remember, if you've seen The Orville, Bortus and Clyden have a child. They're all Mocklins are supposed to be, I put it in quotes, supposed to be male. If you're born a female Mocklin, then the Mocklins consider you a disgrace, and they sex change their children to males. And so there was a whole episode about it in the first season about whether it was right or it was wrong. The crew disagreed with it, but they weren't, the crew's personal beliefs don't overweigh the beliefs of an entire culture of Mocklins. And so the sex change is done sort of against everybody's will, and the episode ends on sort of this sour note, like, "Oh crap, that sucked." We revisit that child. The child's on board the Orville. He's growing up, but he's having some problems with identifying. He doesn't feel right. He's being forced into these different gender roles, and so it is about the whether or not it's right to let this child have a sex change, whether it's not right to perform the surgery on board a Union ship, what the Mocklins are going to think about it if you go against their word years later after they had a trial and everything. So it's just a big, moving, impactful episode. The Orville is just so big. It's such a strong show.
Very relevant. Yeah.
And then the turnaround in the next week, this most recent episode that I've seen, was about it was really sort of abortion. It was an abortion episode.
Ooh, wow.
Where they were trying to decide whether or not it was right to go back in time and take somebody before kids were born. And so that was sort of the veil they showed it through. And they were talking to the different characters about whether or not it would be right to change the course of these kids existing or not. Another powerful episode. The episodes are running about an hour long, so they're deep. You're watching full feature movies, it feels like. The CG in the Orville has been turned way up. They got a budget from Disney. I keep seeing people asking if we're going to get a season 4, if it's going to happen. I hope so. With the amount of money that they spend on the CG and the costumes and the makeup, with Disney kind of re-upping this deal with Hulu and making this happen, I think this could be a Hulu flagship show for 20 years to come. But I don't know. So please go watch The Orville. Go like it. Go watch it. Add it to your list, please. It's my favorite show on TV. Please go watch The Orville.
I also really like The Orville. I think it will keep going because of the budget they're giving it. And also it seems like what they're doing right now in this season is fleshing out more of the universe and the races and the cultures and that kind of thing, and that's world building. That's story building. And I would even be cool with if it became Star Trek and there's the Orville, Deep Space Nine. They start doing all these other stuff. Dealing with these different facets of these societies.
I think that Seth MacFarlane would love that to happen, and I think that's his childhood dream, probably, to make the Orville become a Star Trek type of flagship name. I don't know if it'll ever get that big, but I just hope that I hope that the Orville's a big enough name to be a household name.
I just really like the universe and the races and species, cultures, and all. I love all of what they've built so far. It's been pretty cool.
It's interesting to me just the transition, because this was originally a network TV show, and now it has transitioned to being a streaming only. Hard hitting topics they're doing, and also episode length and everything could only be done via streaming. So it sounds like in the long run they're benefiting from that change. And I know there's a few shows that have done this, like Brooklyn Nine-Nine went from being on TV, I think, to being streaming only, or maybe it just switched networks. I can't remember.
It just switched networks. It got canceled and then picked up by someone else.
Yeah, so this went from being, I think, a Fox show to being a Hulu exclusive, and sounds like that's been a positive change. So in hindsight,
even when it was a Fox show, it still kind of tackled those hard to hit, hard to talk about subjects. It kind of went after them and sort of made you uncomfortable and made you think. I think that was always Seth MacFarlane's intention. And with the success he's had over the years with Fox, they just went ahead and let him go for it. The show, I was watching some early Orville the other day, and it was a lot more silly in the beginning. There were definitely like beats for jokes. Pause for this, pause for joke, laugh here. Those beats are almost gone. Now if something's funny, it's just funny because it is. The beats are like totally gone. They're not trying to force comedy so much in the Orville anymore.
Yeah. I saw the last episode I saw was the one where they go into like the nightmare zone, where those lizard people are like, "Don't go there. There's demons." That episode's dope. That was the last one I saw.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What else have you been watching?
I think I got. You got anything, Gary?
I've been watching some stuff that I saw was on Drew's list also. I've been watching Hacks. I watched, I know Drew talked about Hacks. Our friend Connor talked about Hacks. So Annie and I sat down. We blasted through season 1 and 2. They're just 8-episode seasons, so they go by really fast. You can watch them in like a sitting almost.
Yeah, only half-hour episodes, usually pretty short.
And I really think that Hacks would be, I think I would like it even more if I was a mother with a daughter, or a daughter that was like, maybe just a daughter. Maybe a daughter that had a relationship with a mom or didn't. Either way, there's a lot of mother-daughter type of relationship stuff here. And it is just such a joy to watch. I love watching it. And Hacks reminds me sort of like Ted Lasso, in that I think both of them are Hallmark shows that somehow they get a free pass for not being Hallmark shows.
Yeah, I really like Hacks. I think Gene Smart's pretty incredible in it. I would say I really liked season 2. I don't think season 2 was quite as strong as season 1, but it did still push the story forward, and there was more character development. I think it was a worthwhile journey. I'm interested to see where they go from here, but I thought season 1 was like pretty incredible. Season 2 I thought was solid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think season 1 was also better. Season 2 was good. I do think it's weird that now literally almost every single character except for the agent has had a sexual relationship on screen. I guess you really have to show every single character having sex. We get it. People have sex. I get it.
Well, I hadn't even thought about that, but yeah.
It's just not that interesting to me to show every single character's sex life.
That lady looks familiar to me. Is she from Sex and the City?
No.
No?
No, but she's been around for a long time. I first ever saw her in the Brady Bunch movie. So there you go.
Wow.
Was she the mom?
No.
After Hacks,
That's all I got.
Drew, you also have Only Murders in the Building.
Yeah, I started this up because I know the second season's currently running. I've started the first season because it was kind of on my to-do list for the past year, basically, since you talked about it, because I've heard good things about it. So I've watched the first 2 episodes of it, and so far I like it. I like the character. I like Steve Martin and Martin Short whenever they're on screen together. Obviously, they have like a long history together, so they just have a great chemistry. And Selena Gomez is a nice fresh addition to that too, with somebody younger and everything. I think the story is intriguing enough. I'm interested to see where it goes.
She does not take away from their chemistry at all, and she plays great with each of them individually. When all three of them are on screen, it's kind of weird. They don't have a great team synergy, but she plays off both of them fine when they're in solo scenes. We watched all of season 1. We love Only Murders in the Building, and season 2 is off to a great start, I would say. I think there's like some stupid relationship stuff they throw in the end of season 1 with Selena Gomez's boyfriend character, and they just write him out with a line in season 2. She's like, "Oh yeah, I don't think that's gonna end up working out," and then you just never see him. So they get rid of him, which is fine. The big finale at the end of season 1 was like dumb. It was like they solved the thing, and then the police arrest them all, and then they all go to jail. And you're like, what? That's dumb. And then season 2 starts, and they're like, "Oh, good thing we're done being questioned and we're out of jail." You're like, okay, good. I'm glad they got rid of that. Why did they all get arrested again? And then they start to fix season 2. So I love Martin Short in this show. The character he's playing, the sort of washed up, has been or never was off Hollywood director who just thinks he's the hottest thing since sliced bread. He's really, really funny. And then Steve Martin has been a TV show detective. So he's sort of playing the straight man. Martin Short's hilarious. Selena Gomez fits in. I didn't think they'd have much more to do after season 1, but here we are.
Is it on Hulu?
Season 2 is going great. It is on Hulu.
Huh.
It's an easy watch too. It's a fun watch, and even though it's about murder and stuff, I've
seen the first
gross
2 or 3. It was pretty good. I liked it. I don't know. It's one of those ones that I just put down and pick back up.
Yeah, that happens.
And the only other show that I've been watching, we talked about those. I mentioned before I started watching The Sopranos. I finished season 1. That show is very good. Once I finished season 1, I was catching up on some other shows, but I have finally started up season 2. That's really all I have to say about it. Other than it's great. I'm not treading any new territory here when I say The Sopranos is good, so I'm not going to waste anybody's time with that. It's good. That's it.
Never seen it.
It's good.
So I'm told. I guess that was it for you guys. I have been watching. I don't think you guys have watched Stranger Things at all, even still, huh? Yeah. So the second part of season 4 came out, and the first one is like an hour and a half long. The second one's like 2 hours, 20 minutes long. It's like a whole movie. It's ridiculous. Honestly, a little long, but both of those were fantastic. And the last 2-hour epic movie is insane. It gets out of control. The graphics, the special effects, the story, just how intense everything gets. It's awesome. I know you guys. I think you guys did. You both stop at season 2?
No, Gary watched more.
Yeah, I ended up having watched all of season 2 and all of season 3, and I just forgot about it.
Gotcha. So season 3, season 2 is definitely the worst season. Season 3 is great. Season 4 is fantastic. I don't want to spoil anything in case you do wind up watching it, but just the places the characters get to, they really build on like the mythology and just where everything came from. You finally get like some answers about the Upside Down and that kind of thing. So it's not as just abstract a concept anymore. It's just really good, man. It's some of the best TV I've seen. I can't recommend it enough. The other thing, I don't think you guys watched this one either. The Boys just had their season finale as well. And that episode was so good. Everything you want to happen happens and more. Things that you weren't expecting happen. The heroes come together. Homelander is such a good villain. Both the actor and just the way they write for him, the choices they make in the plot. He's such a good bad guy. He's such at times you feel sympathetic for him, but like he's absolutely a hopeless, irredeemable bastard for sure. but like, they still make you sympathize with the guy from time to time, and he still makes choices, and you're just very interested in the writing. The season finale was fantastic. I thought it was great. 10 out of 10. I wasn't sure how, because you know how they do all the super violence, they do all the like sex, drugs, and all that stuff. It's all very in your face, but then they wrap it up just so well story wise. It's good. It's good stuff. Never watched that show, Gary.
No, I've seen the first season. That was good.
Yeah, it gets way more bloody. Yeah. The last thing that I've been watching, I think I'm completely caught up with Miss Marvel. I meant to be for sure. Have you guys been keeping up?
I don't want to talk about this too much because if Gary has still been watching it, we might do a full episode about it. Actually, by the time this episode drops, the finale will have run, but we might do a recap. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I won't talk about it too much. I haven't. None of the three things I'm talking about here, I'm going to give too many spoilers because you guys haven't really seen a lot of it, and just on the off chance that you want to. Plus, these like just dropped. Miss Marvel, so they get more into it. I really enjoy. There's an episode where they're in Pakistan. I really liked that. I like watching travel shows because I just like seeing the other cultures, other places, that kind of thing. And you get that vibe. They do take you around. She's a fish out of water there, and they do talk about being a American raised. I think they have a word for it. I think they call her an ABCD, American born clueless Desi or something like that, which is like a term for Pakistani people. And she like rolled her eyes at it, blah blah blah. But I could definitely sympathize. I don't know if I ever went to Iran, I'd definitely be a fish out of water. I don't even speak the language, so it was just cool to see that. Cool things happen with their powers. Long story short, and they have a really cool sequence involving some train stuff. I liked it. I still like the show. I still like the way it's going. I have hopes for it. I have hopes for her character in The Marvels, whenever that comes out. And I think she was cast I can't say it enough, she was cast perfect. Like, she's absolutely Comic-Con. It was nail on the head. I don't know, it was good.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then I think y'all had a game that you wanted to talk about briefly, and then we'll wrap up.
This game.
Oh boy.
This game.
Oh boy.
Drew. Oh, Drew.
I actually saw this game as a newly added, before I knew y'all were playing it, I saw it as a newly added game to Game Pass, and I went and read the description. I was like, this looks like it's going to be right up Gary and Jahan's alley. And then I saw either yesterday or the day before, y'all were online playing it together. So I'm like, okay, yep.
So I'll start off. So there's a lot of this style of game. It's, a top-down RPG, fantasy, Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing. You have
turn-based combat, grid combat. You have conversations with people. It's like a la Baldur's Gate, circa '98.
It is just it's in the exact same vein as Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate 2, Shadow of Om, one of my all-time favorite games, period. This game is very much like all those, but this game, I don't know, it does everything better. It is crazy how good this, every time something would happen, me and Gary would be like, what? Like, we would just, freak out.
I think I've started to figure this out.
Yeah.
Remember whenever Wizards of the Coast made, the player's handbook stuff free, but all the other stuff isn't free?
Maybe.
This company uses everything from the player's handbook, but none of the extra stuff.
You think that's what it is?
That's exactly what it is. They use the exact D&D 5e rules to the point where we already know if we equip 2 offhand weapons, we already know exactly what the stat bonuses are going to be and how it's going to interact with rage and everything, because these rules for this game are D&D 5e. The spells are from D&D 5e.
I mean, it is
almost all of them.
If you and 3 other friends, you can play 2-player. We play 2-player, and we each have 2 characters. But if you played with 3 other friends, you had your party of 4, you go on, you make your characters, and you start playing this game. You are just playing a DM-less version of Dungeons and Dragons in every best possible way. This is the most Dungeons and Dragons experience I've ever gotten from a video game, I think.
It is co-op. It is cross-play. So Jahan plays on his PC through Game Pass. I play on my Xbox. We can both play together seamlessly. Every like 3 or 4 hours, maybe, the game will have a hiccup in between the turns and get caught up. If you leave the game, save, and then load, you don't get stuck in the hiccup anymore.
It's pretty
you get
good
right back
at
into the
auto-saving,
action.
too.
It takes like 45 seconds to get back into the action. If your team dies, your autosave is right at the beginning of combat instead of at some crap turn or instead of 10 dungeons back. The autosaves are great. The skills are great. The game, it's rough. You'll die in a heartbeat if you're not careful with your party composition and you don't know about healing in D&D. It is just so fun. I wish that there were 2 Jahans so that one could go to Jenny's house and one could stay at his house and play Solasta with me.
Yes, so this is, I don't even know if we said the name yet. This is Solasta, Crown of the Magister. Free on Game Pass right now. It has some DLC, which is pretty cheap, that me and Gary bought all of it almost immediately. I have never seen better AI in one of these games, ever. Never, ever, I've never seen this kind of stuff. They do stuff that's mind-blowing. Like when you're fighting flying creatures, a lot of times in games, they're just, hovering above the ground and you can hit them normal. These ones actually change what height they're at. They move around. It feels like you're fighting flying creatures to the point where you're like, oh no, I can't hit them because they keep flying away from me.
I was playing a barbarian, so I had 2 hand axes and a greatsword. So I can't hit the flying creatures. I threw my axes and that was that. Axes were gone. I threw them and I missed.
Yeah.
So I was just standing there while bats would sweep down and attack me and fly away because that's what happens if you don't have a ranged character. And that's right out the gate. We're fighting flying characters. Then we're fighting characters with regen. Characters that have spider climb and they're up and down walls. We walk into a dungeon that's just pillars that drop like 3 stories, and you have to jump across all these ancient broken ruins to get across the room. Then all these lizard folk start like climbing up around you, up the pillars. They start coming along the roofs and spitting acid at you. The graphics for Solasta aren't great, but it makes up for everything. It makes up for everything else. You pick your character's starting gear, just like you would in Dungeons and Dragons. You pick your background, your languages. You pick your class and your subclasses. It is Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, the game. Yeah. And it is great.
A lot of the things, I wasn't ready for how real it was going to get, man. A lot of the things that are kind of like throwaway spells, like light. Like, you don't necessarily think light's important. The lighting in this game has been so important. Like, we keep getting disadvantaged because things are obscured by darkness, so I actually have to cast light. What was the other?
Jump. We needed
the jump spell. I circumvented it by teleporting, which was cool. It's one of the best D&D analogs.
I got knocked off of like a 4-story ledge, and Jahan had Featherfall prepared, so it let his character use Featherfall as a reaction off turn to save me from falling. Like, it was just so fun.
It was awesome.
Oh my god.
Drew,
I'm playing a barbarian and also a druid. I'm having the time of my life.
I imagine it's still just as fun. Single player, you get to make all 4 characters, or you can do 2 and 2, or you can do you can do any mix. You can play 1 to 4 players, and also infinite content in this game. It does have a creation mode where you can make dungeons, make quests, all that good stuff too. Fantastic.
And community-made dungeons that you can play the community-made stuff.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah. I look forward to checking that stuff. This game blew my mind, man.
I loved the character creation so much. I made 6 characters back to back before I ever started the game. You can only play 4 characters. I don't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Play Solasta if you like Dungeons and Dragons. If you're looking for a D&D experience and your group can't make it, it's not like Dungeons and Dragons. It's not like Diablo. It is It's Dungeons and Dragons, the video game. Finally, there it is.
Yeah, it's D&D in its purest form that I've ever seen in a video game. I'll say it again. Solasta, Crown of the Magister, fantastic, and the story's pretty good too so far. So,
Certified fresh out the box.
certified fresh out the box, and free on Game Pass.
Also, go watch Alone in the Orville.
And Stranger Things. But yeah, I guess that wraps us up for tonight. Thank you everyone for listening. Hit us with hashtag alone in the box on Twitter. I am Johannanon at RockFact on Twitter.
It's me, Casualty CDG. Come watch me and Jahan play tabletop role-playing games Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays at twitch.tv/Johannanon or on our YouTube, Fresh Out the Box TTRPG. We play and you watch, and it's fun.
And I am Drew Munhausen at Drew Munhausen on Twitter. This has been episode 54 of Fresh Out the Podcast. Thank you for listening.
Stay fresh.